Meet the Asteri House, an elite magic dynasty so overwhelmingly powerful they can drop birds mid-air and bend the emperor to their will. As the ultimate prestigious magic house, they have a ruthless rule: cast out any bloodline member who lacks talent. Down in the mansion, the staff are already whispering about the latest family disaster. One of the maids gasps, saying the eldest young master just failed his mana awakening yet again. Another maid chimes in that it's his third mana shock, wondering if the youngest is taking over instead. Granny instantly cuts them off, warning them to watch their mouths before someone overhears. She admits nobody knows for sure yet, but failing 3 times is enough to drive anyone insane. The maids agree he was always eccentric, until a estate owner steps in to demand if they even know what's happening. The maid explains it all began a month ago, when Asteri finally woke up after being bedridden from his third mana shock. He muttered gibberish to himself for a bit right after opening his eyes. Then, out of nowhere, he bolted right out of the mansion into the night. Acting like he spotted something specific in the backyard, Asteri dropped straight to his knees and started tearing up the dirt with his bare hands. He kept digging until his hands were completely raw and bleeding. And after all that madness, turns out the grand discovery clutched in his fingertips was just a weed. Granny and the estate owner stare in complete bafflement, repeating in shock that he's doing what with weeds. The estate owner tries to brush it off by saying a few weeds aren't a big deal, but the maids snap back that he's missing the point. For a whole month without missing a single day, he has done nothing but relentlessly pull weeds. As he keeps pulling weeds, a system notification pops up to announce he has acquired blue basil. More system windows chime in with the exact same reward, leading the young master to declare it another productive day. And right after that, he notices something else. Spotting watchers hiding in the trees, young master sighs that being the eldest grandson of the prestigious Asteri family is exhausting. He introduces himself as Lion Asteri, though he used to be a Korean guy named Bak Yahayan. Back in South Korea, he worked as a team leader at a small company until his boss's power trips pushed him to quit on a whim. With all his newfound free time, he logged into an old nostalgic game from his job hunting days, only to discover in shock that some jerk had deleted all his hard-earned characters while strangely leaving his cash balance untouched. Tired of endgame grinding, he started fresh with a crafting system and decided to enjoy a stress-free life as a life skill player. That was his last memory before waking up 50 years later inside an MMORPG as young master. He admits that keeping the original owner's memories saved him from going crazy while trying to adjust. Picking herbs quickly triggers a notification that he has acquired aqua rosemary. The system unlocks a novice herbalist achievement, rewarding him with 1,000 shillings and a message about a future shop. Thrilled by the unexpected earnings, he hopes working diligently will help him escape sooner than expected. Recalling that his current body failed its mana awakening 3 times, he worries about getting kicked out of the strict Asteri house. Desperate for money to survive outside, he suddenly wonders if he could just bribe the family head. He reaches down and grabs some wild herbs growing on the ground. He imagines awkwardly offering a bribe to the stern elder. Kneeling in the woods, he figures he needs to boost his stats fast and craft something good. Right before a blue glow catches his eye, making him realize it's a huge find. With a quick dash, he grabs the glowing herb right out of the dirt and cheers in victory. A system info window pops up detailing the red sun fern, noting it's safe to eat raw and clears wandering thoughts. He lights up with joy seeing it score 3 stars and trigger a new achievement. But then Granny interrupts him from behind. Flushed and thrilled over his rare 3-star drop, he turns around as Granny calls out to him again. Surprised to see Granny Sylvia standing there, young master listens as she dryly remarks that he's been spending a lot of time pulling weeds lately. Brushing off her comment, he holds out the plant and asks if she can spot anything unusual about it. She squints at the leaves, calling it a decent herb, which prompts him to correct her because she's totally missing the magical glow. Shocked that she's completely blind to the light, he mutters that what the servants whispered behind her back must actually be true. Granny flat out admits she doesn't see a thing, leaving young master totally speechless. Holding the glowing herb, he realizes he's the only one who can see its light. Granny interrupts his thoughts, telling him to head back because Asteri wants to see him. Stunned, he stammers in disbelief that his grandfather is already asking for him. He panics inside, remembering that Patrick Asteri runs a ruthless meritocracy where the strong take all, and he hasn't even prepped a bribe yet. Catching himself off guard, young master quickly changes his mind about going. He tells Granny to stall his grandfather and delay the visit, adding a small favor to the mix. With a sly grin, young master asks for a small favor. Meanwhile, Astri sits at his large desk inside the study, listening to reports. Astri complains that the boy still hasn't come to his senses, and the aide confirms he's only been picking weeds. Asked for more details, the aide reports that while young master's health and memory are fine, he still cannot sense any magic. Hearing this, Patrick Asteri grits his teeth in frustration. Patrick Asteri tells the bowing servant that he may leave the room. Then the family head calls out to Granny as she slips into the room. She asks if he knows what that boy is up to right now. Asteri fumes that the boy is just picking weeds and everyone in the mansion knows it. Granny notes that he has even expanded his reach to the forest outside, but Asteri snaps that it is not what he wanted to hear. She adds that the young master will come to see him later, sending Asteri into a fiery rage of disbelief. Losing his temper, Asteri screams that if the boy does not show up right now, he will burn the whole forest down, and Granny calmly agrees to deliver the message. Asteri curses the insolent brat under his breath. Peering into a magical orb, Asteri complains that the boy should have run straight to his grandpappy instead of wasting weeks pulling useless weeds. Lion stares in absolute shock at the insanely expensive high-grade artifact gear spread out before him. As the equipment practically brags about costing as much as a house, he realizes what being born into wealth really means. Then, brushing that aside, he runs the numbers in his head to figure out his next move. He figures potion crafting has to follow the same repetitive grind loop as gathering. Proficiency scales from apprentice all the way to master, a rare peak only the top 1% ever reach. He tosses herbs straight into the large cauldron. Wondering if he should just grind out 100 potions and chug them, he gets to work. He hovers his hand over the mix, channeling his energy. With a shout of extraction, magic flares from his palm. The liquid swirls into a flask and a system prompt confirms he successfully crafted a lesser health potion. Downing the brew, he grins as the system restores his health up to 80%, proving good gear changes everything. He lets out a wild laugh, gripping a bottle while vowing that his grandfather is in for a surprise. Rows of empty glass bottles pile up on the wooden table as the crafting session continues. He groans in exhaustion, looking utterly drained by the endless potion gulping. Slumped over in his chair, Lion complains that forcing down more health potions when he is already at full health is absolute torture, before telling himself to power through one last sip. He chugs the final potion with a grimace, gasping for air as a system notification finally confirms he's reached his goal. Checking his stats with a satisfied smirk, he decides it is time to move on. Clenching his fist with a confident grin, he tells himself to get to work. As he gathers and chops herbs in the dimly lit room, he wonders what kind of gift his grandfather might actually appreciate. He reasons that since the target already has overflowing mana, a mana potion is totally pointless. He considers that health potions are useless when there is a professional medical mage on standby, so he decides a mental fatigue recovery potion would be much better. He notes that the person in question is buried under endless piles of work every single day. An archmage can easily use mana to push through physical exhaustion, but mental fatigue remains a completely different story. Lion Asteri inspects the fresh brew, noting its crisp scent and feeling confident about the results. He reflects that while this was just a junk potion in the game, experiencing it in reality is totally different. Lion Asteri marvels at how different the real alchemy feels compared to his old gaming days. He places his hand steadily on the distilling equipment. With a focused command, he activates the extraction process. Glowing blue extracts surge through the tubing, flashing through memories of past lives and hard work. The system activates his potion crafting specialization, successfully producing a 2-star mental fatigue recovery potion that clears exhaustion by recalling happy memories. Lion Asteri is thrilled to land a 2-star grade, realizing it makes the ultimate bribe. He realizes the potion's aroma alone clears his exhaustion, marveling at its intense potency, before a system notification confirms he crafted something beyond his level. As a path to forming a mana circle opens, he reacts in shock when his new talent activates to give him superior mana control. Surrounded by surging magical currents, he stands firm as a brilliant blue energy aura envelops his entire body. Lion stares at his glowing hand in disbelief, questioning if he is finally sensing mana before grinning with quiet excitement. With his eyes closed, he savors the overwhelming sensation rushing through him. A blonde young man laughs maniacally while holding a small bottle in his hand. Lion erupts into wild laughter, shouting in triumph as he celebrates his long-awaited breakthrough. Nearby, a figure watches quietly from the doorway, observing the commotion. Still laughing out loud, Lion turns toward the doorway, only to freeze as someone stands waiting in the shadows. Stepping through the doorway, the visitor walks away down the dim hallway. He leans back in his chair, thrilled that his body can finally handle mana now that he's got money and power, figuring his escape will be a breeze. Sunlight streams through the tall mansion windows, casting a warm glow across the room. He sits there relaxing until it suddenly hits him that he completely forgot about his grandfather. He stares off in silence as the reality of his blunder sets in. Up in the high halls, someone complains that Ryan is running late, wondering why he's working himself to the bone over a simple potion. Flashing back to intense battles, Patrick Asteri reminds everyone he's a key member of the hero's party and head of a powerful house. Back in the library, Asteri crosses his arms and grumbles that he can easily ensure a comfortable life, failing to see the point of pushing that frail body. Sylvia points out they don't lack money or power, and though it's natural to worry, she notes something else. She trails off with a pause, about to explain the deeper reason. Sylvia explains that the young master looked genuinely happy while brewing that particular potion. Asteri rubs his head in frustration, sighing that happiness means nothing when death is staring them in the face. Sylvia reminds him that was Rion's third mana shock, noting how rare it is to survive even one. She argues they can't just keep praying for miracles, wishing instead that he could simply live a normal, healthy life. Someone knocks on the door and announces to the family head that he's asking to come in. Then a voice from outside announces that the eldest young master has finally arrived. Rian steps inside to apologize for the delay, but Asteri immediately asks what took him so long since recovering. Rian catches his breath for a moment in the quiet study. He explains that surviving his last mana shock gave him a lot to think about. As Rian admits that everyone knows he has no talent for magic, Sylvia softly calls out to him. Rian reassures Sylvia that he's well aware of the truth. He confesses that he simply couldn't accept his body's inability to handle mana. He admits he was afraid because accepting it felt like losing his place in the Asteri family. But things have changed now as he shows the result of accepting who he is. He adds that he has been studying to become worthy of the Asteri name and has one more thing to share. Rian politely tells his grandfather that he must have been very tired lately. Asteri narrows his eyes in surprise and asks what he's holding. As the elder stands before him, someone senses that something fundamental has shifted in the young master. He stares down at a small blue potion resting on the desk. He realizes his grandson made this concoction just for him, melting with delight. Asteri flushes bright red as he breaks into a lovesick grin. Suddenly snapping out of it, Asteri reminds himself that he transcended humanity long ago. He figures his body is immune to any basic poison, but Ryan insists he worked hard on it thinking of his grandfather. Rian urges him to drink it soon, leaving Asteri demanding if thinking of him is all he has to say, to which Rian calmly replies yes. Asteri tells Rian he may leave. Rian turns around and bows before walking out of the study. Sylvia points out that Asteri looks absolutely thrilled, though he hastily denies it as nonsense. Asteri narrows his eyes as he stares at the strange brew. He notes that the potion feels strangely familiar. Sylvia examines the potion and reports she doesn't sense any mana, but Asteri tells her it's fine, since he wants to appreciate his grandson's sincerity. Sitting at his desk, the family head holds the small bottle and wonders how long it's been since Rian last gave him a gift. Sylvia stands quietly in the room while the senior inspects the mysterious potion. Sylvia bows and takes her leave, turning away from the desk to exit the study. Left alone in the quiet office, Asteri keeps turning the blue vial over in his hands. Asteri admires the remarkable craftsmanship of the potion, figuring that brewing something like this takes serious alchemical knowledge. Figuring it won't do much to his seasoned body, he decides to drink it anyway so his grandson's gift isn't wasted. Asteri tilts his head back and takes a drink straight from the glass bottle. A soft breeze rustles around his grand chair inside the quiet study. As a deep calm washes over his mind, fragments of his past memories begin to drift past. He drifts into a short, peaceful nap on the floor, experiencing a sweet and tranquil dream. He wakes up with his eyes wide open, staring blankly ahead. He reflects on a dream of a day he missed so dearly. He sits at his desk, realizing that despite falling asleep, he feels neither groggy nor sad. Asteri looks down at a bottle, amazed that his headache is completely gone and his head feels remarkably clear. Asteri looks out the bright window as sunlight streams into the room. Asteri sighs, noting that someone is headstrong just like you. Asteri resolves not to keep him locked away just for a weak body, vowing to stop mana shock and live together for a long time. Suddenly, Rian gets goosebumps and wonders what just happened. Nearby, a maid drops a shocking rumor that Rian Asteri is dying soon after giving the family head a parting gift. Another worker laughs out loud, joking that he was probably looking for a place to be buried. Suddenly, someone slams a door nearby, scaring the worker half to death. Hannah stutters nervously about gathering laundry before being told to get back to work. As the worker asks if she is okay, Hannah panics and yells that another of young Master Rion's assigned servants is quitting. Astery reacts with shock as Hannah vents that servants are quitting in droves because the young master is too easygoing. She fumes that spreading rumors is just an excuse to bolt, complaining that nobody has any loyalty left these days. As she rants about ungrateful workers, Sylvia suddenly materializes behind her, calmly asking to hear all about these rumors. Clouds drift across a bright sky over the estate. The witch arrives late to meet Sister, casually brushing off the delay as she checks in. She mentions she was just keeping the household in order before asking why she was summoned so early. Sister stares in tense silence. He asks her to use her witch's eye. He asks her to examine a mysterious potion sitting on the desk. Magic flares up around the bottle. Examining it closely, Sister realizes this isn't something the young master could ever brew. Shocked, she asks if it's the legendary hero's potion. The story flashes back to the hero, the savior who ended the demon war 50 years ago before vanishing. He was a legendary figure that even the gods dared not oppose, and now, somewhere hidden away, a mysterious voice ponders if he is the only one capable of finding the house contract and setting them free. He examines the bottle, noting that only the hero could get something like this, but grandfather tells him not to jump to conclusions, since a real hero's potion would be way stronger. He adds that there is just no way young master is the hero. A mysterious glowing bottle rests alone on the table. Grandfather insists on asking young master for an even better potion, so his sister can finally feel some relief after centuries of living in lethargy. Up close, the family head wears a knowing smirk. Then he bursts out laughing, amused by the notion. Witch points out that worrying about a witch is a waste of time, since they possess a 1,000-year lifespan and immense power, telling him not to burden their grandson. However, she pauses. Grandfather gladly accepts her kind thoughts. Grandfather looks on with a worried expression, calling out to his sister. He notices his grandfather looking distracted, and points out that he seems to have something on his mind. Patrick shrugs off the comment and asks if his grandson didn't sleep well the night before. He playfully shoots down a lack of exercise and suggests his grandfather's fatigue comes from not eating greasy food at his age. Patrick bristles with irritation at the cheeky remark, while Lion wonders what else could be wrong. Patrick asks if his fatigue is due to the potion Lion gave him. Admitting he is correct, Patrick cuts straight to the chase and asks if Lion can make an even higher quality potion. Lion deep in thought. Lion reasons that making a 2-star potion is tough since he can't find any more 1-star herbs. He realizes his last success was just a lucky fluke relying mostly on gear, but resolves to try anyway. Determined not to miss the chance while his financial backer is interested, Lion figures out he can do it given enough time. Lion asks what Patrick plans to use the advanced potion for. Patrick casually drops a bombshell by stating he will give it to the headmaid as a gift, leaving Lion utterly shocked. Lion staring in disbelief. He watches the family head and witch interact, deciding they are totally flirting before correcting his own thoughts. He quickly corrects himself, begging his grandfather to give him just 2 weeks. He promises to brew a higher-grade potion in that time, leaving his grandfather shocked. Young master stammers and scrambles away. He rushes out, vowing to make it happen within a week as his grandfather watches in stunned silence. He gets fired up, seeing this as his golden opportunity to seal his affinity farming. Walking through the forest, he realizes he doesn't have enough time or skill to brew a 3-star potion from scratch. Remembering the shilling shop, he hopes to find some useful crafting materials there. The shop unlocks a preview for items under 100,000 shillings, but he is shocked by how expensive everything is. He inspects the shop's catalog tabs, complaining that worn-out options should be cheap, and getting shocked when a simple seasoning costs 10,000 shillings, leaving him with nothing he can afford yet. Since the online shop proves useless for his budget, he sighs and decides his only remaining option is the standard way. He reasons that there is a strict limit to gathering high-grade herbs with bare hands. To properly gather those rare herbs, he concludes that he needs high-quality tools. An apprentice rushes toward the back of the forge, yelling at the boss to get over here immediately. The burly blacksmith angrily refuses, shouting that he is way too busy to be bothered, prompting the apprentice to rush him. The worker yells that a big spender has arrived, making the burly master pause in surprise. Grumbling about being bossed around, the giant smith heads toward the entrance to fleece whoever walked in. The burly blacksmith hammers fiercely at the anvil inside his busy workshop. Stepping outside to meet them, the astonished smith stares at Lion, who flashes a dazzling smile while asking if he can try blacksmithing here, looking every bit like a wealthy young master in expensive clothes. The startled blacksmith stammers in shock before quickly backtracking and agreeing to whatever is happening. He dangles a heavy sack overflowing with glowing gold coins, offering a lavish payout. Earlier, Astery inspects some tools and figures. He'll just craft a better one himself, since store-bought gear is overpriced and takes too long to commission. He walks up to a workshop and asks if he can try blacksmithing, dangling a heavy money pouch to sweeten the deal. The shop owner scoffs at the sight of the gold. Furious about dealing with a noble's whim while struggling with their work, the blacksmith snaps until his brother hastily tells him to watch his mouth. The assistant tries to hand the pouch back, warning Astery that he's too sheltered and shouldn't trust people so easily. Astery just smiles and admits he tipped them extra on purpose, trying to move the conversation along. Before he can explain further, a burly red-haired blacksmith steps in and bluntly asks why a pampered noble wants to craft a trowel. The master blacksmith steps forward in surprise at running into one here, bluntly demanding to know who he is. Young master gives his name as Rian Astery, prompting the dwarf to recognize him as the infamous nutjob of the Astery house. Then young master loudly orders a spot set up for his eccentric self while Sean panics over his brother's loose mouth. Brother tells young master to use the forge and boss him around, leading to a quick expression of thanks. As young master starts asking for a name, he turns around to find the dwarf has already vanished into thin air. Sean steps in to explain that his brother is millionth Mudu, but asks young master to follow him for a proper tour of the blacksmith shop. Sean notes that finished products go on display outside, and while young master finds the equipment and process impressively meticulous, there is a catch. The two continue inspecting the interior of the crowded weapon shop. Staring at the fireplace, Astery wonders why the quality is so low. He turns around in surprise, wondering what just happened in the room. A system message alerts him that a weak fire spirit is complaining, prompting him to ask Sean if the forge flame is usually this weak. Sean stammers that it is not exactly weak right now, but Astery points out that the firepower has definitely decreased compared to before, leaving the master perplexed as to how he knew. When Astery casually replies that the fire told him, brother freezes up in shock. As Astery offers to show him how to make a trowel, brother panics and yells at him to stop. Astery tells Sean to get back to work so he can discuss something in private with the blacksmith. Outside in the courtyard, brother confronts him and demands to know if he saw it. Astery looks back at him and calmly admits that he did. Astery asks if the master blacksmith can fix it, and the guy figures he probably can. The blacksmith promises to teach him blacksmithing and grant priority ordering rights if he pulls it off, leaving Astery wide-eyed. Realizing how huge that priority access is since the Astery territory shop gets commissions everywhere, he jumps at the deal. Inside the furnace room, flames dance brightly. The roaring forge burns away as work continues. Brother explains he built the biggest shop in the territory, but the fire spirit ran out of energy, ruining the quality. He admits he cannot keep compensating with skill alone, and confesses that as a dwarf, he cannot even understand the spirit. Astery watches him closely, noting that though he looks scrawny, he might actually see spirits. Without missing a beat, Astery announces that the fire is thirsty, leaving Mudu completely baffled. When Astery suggests pouring water on it, Mudu freaks out and asks if he has lost his mind. Mudu demands to know what they should do instead, so Astery tells him to calm down because spirits drink something else. Desperate to fix the crisis, Mudu promises to hand over his masterpiece or whatever Astery wants if he solves it. Checking if he truly means it, Astery gets a firm confirmation. Astery flashes a confident smirk. With a firm handshake, Astery agrees to get straight to work on it tonight. Night falls over the quiet estate as moonlight washes across the large building. Astery complains about working overtime until system alerts chime in, warning him that the overworked fire spirit is running dangerously dry. He realizes the massive forge is draining the spirit dry, concluding that he needs aqua rosemary to fix the dehydration. Astery processes the salty herb into a custom oil that fire spirits can safely consume, finishing the brew in no time. He pours the oil into the flames, but as the system notes partial progress, Astery immediately goes back to brewing another batch. The second dose fully restores the spirit, boosting Astery's communion talent experience as it cheerfully expresses gratitude. Brother rushes over in absolute disbelief, shouting in awe that Astery actually pulled it off. He stammers in shock, staring at Astery with wide, stunned eyes. Brother asks if the young master is all right, but the exhausted blonde brushes it off, claiming it is just from staying up all night. Brother suddenly screams in sheer panic as he spots the young master collapsing. Brother desperately begs the kid not to die on him like that. Smoke drifts from a cozy chimney against a bright blue sky. Two kids pop up, asking the young man what his name is. He introduces himself as Thorn made of gold, and the girl chimes in that she is Leaf made of jade. Someone laughs, remarking how well the two kids get along. That makes him remember his own prickly sibling who probably despised him. He figures as long as they never cross paths, it is fine since he does not care about the family headship. The woman tells the children to go play somewhere else so the young master can eat. Hearing that, the kids decide his name must simply be Young Master. He corrects them with a smile, telling them his actual name is Rion. The kid insists that Young Master sounds cooler, which Rion accepts without a fuss. Sylvia scolds the kids for interrupting, while they cheerfully keep shouting for the Young Master. Sylvia apologizes for their energy, but Rion insists it is fine and praises the delicious soup. Sylvia admits she was shocked when her husband brought him home earlier that morning. She thanks him profusely for going out of his way to fix their problem, but Rion brushes it off since they gave him food and shelter. As he opens the door to greet the morning, his little girls happily rush over to him. The kids excitedly ask if the young master fixed everything while pointing out his soot-covered face. Young master tells him that it is time for them to head out. Brother replies that he has everything ready to go. Young master looks up in utter surprise. Brother recalls promising to prioritize whatever young master requests and leaving a notebook for orders. Brushing that aside, brother tells young master to hurry up and come inside. Sunlight streams down over a collection of farming tools displayed inside. Staring at a massive stack of metal blocks, young master asks if it is iron, and brother explains he prepared the materials beforehand to save his stamina. Brother notes that young master is taking this quite seriously, and young master fires back asking if he thought it was just pretend. Eager to learn, young master asks what he should do first. Pleased by his enthusiasm, brother says he will show him how it is done. He explains that the absolute foundation of blacksmithing starts with the right iron temperature. He warns that just getting it red hot isn't enough because too much heat turns it straight into liquid iron. Glowing hot metal sits ready in the forge as young master steps up to take his turn. Young master swings the hammer down, explaining that controlling your strength is key to keeping the blade thin and the body sturdy. As the piece takes shape, he instructs to refine the details and sharpen the edge with a whetstone. Brother fastens the handle onto the finished trowel to bring the tool together. Young master holds up the finished trowel, boasting that it was pretty easy to make. Brother laughs that it's only easy because millionth Wudu is helping, before young master asks if he can use all the remaining iron. Brother gives the green light but stops cold when young master casually says he gets it. Panic sets in as young master dumps a massive pile of iron straight into the furnace all at once. Young master gives it a try with the giant fire, but soon pauses with a hammer in hand, admitting it really isn't easy. The system warns that the trowel is irreparable and needs to be melted down, but he pushes through the fatigue, determined to keep going until he gets it right. Pushing past the failures, young master demands another attempt, and the small fire spirit eagerly agrees to help. With the fire spirit guiding the flame, he winds up and swings his hammer with everything he's got. The completion rate hits 50% and awakens the blacksmith talent, prompting brother to rush over and tell him to finish it with that stroke. Brother stares in utter disbelief, pointing out that the feel of the metal is completely different from before. Young master stands quietly in the workshop while brother looks on, taking in the sudden shift in quality. Sparks fly across the anvil as the two work together to shape the glowing metal under the heat of the forge. Young master grips the handles tightly, quenching the freshly forged piece to lock in its new state. He shouts that it's finally done as he finishes his work. The stat block reveals a novice blacksmith masterpiece trowel with max completion rate that boosts gathering speed and item grades. Brother inspects the tool and praises his raw talent, telling him it is far better than what most blacksmiths can make. Brother tells him he should be excited, but Asteri immediately tries to take a break after finishing just one piece. Refusing to stop, Asteri insists on moving straight to the next task and asks to learn how to make a sickle. Brother stares back with a blank expression, completely taken aback by the sudden demand. Bursting into laughter, brother agrees to teach him everything, while Asteri looks out at the night sky vowing to fulfill his grandfather's love story. Out in the forest at night, Asteri drives the newly crafted trowel straight into the ground. The magical item check successfully unearths a rare finger ginseng with vitalizing properties. Crouching in the woods, Astery marvels at how much difference using a high-grade tool actually makes. He points out that carrying a trowel and a sickle lets him gather a much wider variety of herbs. He figures that raising his trowel proficiency just a bit more will bring a 3-star potion within reach. Squatting down in the clearing, he decides to do some gathering to get used to it. After unearthing wild sweet potato leaves and stems, he realizes what they are and guesses there is more hidden underneath. Suddenly, a burst of fire erupts from the ground, leaving him utterly startled. The trowel's fire spirit blessing activates, magically roasting the sweet potato into a ready-to-eat treat. Astery checks out the system prompt, realizing the fire spirit blessing lets him perfectly roast whatever edible item he finds. He stares down at the steaming sweet potato he just dug up with a single swing of his new trowel. Astery stands quietly in the woods holding the steaming roasted snack. He immediately takes a huge bite, burning his mouth on the piping hot snack, but decides that only makes it better. Astery happily munches away, raving that the sweet potato tastes rich, nutty, and practically like eating a regular sweet potato washed down with milk. Suddenly noticing a nearby bird watching him, Astery pauses. He asks the creature if it wants a share of his food. Astery drops a small piece on the ground for the bird. The bird eagerly pecks at the treat and chirps happily. Watching it flutter around, Astery remembers an old friend from his gaming days and wonders how they are doing. Wipe out of his brief break, Astery stretches and wonders if he should get back to gathering potion ingredients. Instead of herbs, he grins and decides he needs to dig up a few more sweet potatoes first. Up in the castle, someone lets out a heavy sigh. Down in the yard, John Doe panics because Rion has been gone for 3 days, wondering if he should go look for him while Headmaid notes he still isn't back. John Doe suddenly stops as he notices something. Headmaid turns her sharp gaze forward. John Doe admits he's worried sick, adding that wild rumors are spreading around the territory about Rion's impending doom or expulsion. Headmaid reacts with a surprised gasp. Suddenly, Rion calls out from the path, asking if everyone is waiting for him out here. Headmaid and John Doe rush over in a panic at the sight of his disheveled state, but Rion simply tells them he's fine. Rion waves it off, saying it is no big deal. Headmaid silently looks at him with a grim expression. She laments how the eldest son of the family ended up looking like a mess. John Doe interrupts to ask about the bird on Rion's shoulder, leaving Rion completely confused. Rion wonders aloud when the bird managed to follow him. Headmaid steps close to Rion with a serious look. She tells him he doesn't have to push himself anymore, prompting Rion to realize his grandfather told her everything. Touching his head with a tired grin, the young master complains that his grandfather really has no tact at all. As she asks for clarification, he brushes it off, telling her to wait a little longer because he managed to gather all the ingredients despite running late. Shocked by the news, the elderly woman repeats the question, and he confirms that he actually gathered them. Without missing a beat, Rion tells her to hang on just a bit longer while he hurries off to make it as fast as he can. Rion reassures John Doe that he is fine and tells the servant to get back to work, but John Doe tries to protest. Running after him across the stone path, the headmaid desperately yells at the young master to at least take some medicine for his scrapes. Stopping in her tracks, the headmaid falls silent as she watches him dash away. Reflecting on her long life as a witch where most potions fail on her, she thinks about how Rion is the frailest of the Astery family and breaks her heart the most. Yet seeing him work so hard makes a faint hope rise within her. Stepping forward in the garden, the headmaid wonders to herself if he could really pull it off. Back in his study, the family head wonders how Rion managed to brew such an incredible potion all by himself. A few days later, Astery welcomes Headmaid back and immediately asks if the potion worked. She confirms it worked wonders, then demands to know what the grandfather did to help. Headmaid praises Rion's talent, but Astery insists he did nothing and claims he is busy with coming-of-age ceremony preparations. Headmaid points out that if Rion brewed this entirely on his own, it poses a whole new problem. Headmaid declares it a hero's potion, noting how heroes save the world but vanish like disposable tools. Astery sits in silence, clenching his gloved hands as he reflects on how those heroes simply evaporate without a trace. As Astery notes that old comrades are searching everywhere for Rion without success, he reflects that losing friends on the battlefield was already plenty, and he refuses to endure that same agony over his own grandson. The loyal aide gazes forward with a calm smile. Sylvia declares that it's time to keep their boy hidden away while she officially takes her retirement, leaving everyone stunned. Astery slams his hand down, arguing that giving up her freedom just to hide Rion makes no sense at all. He protests that she shouldn't live bound to the house forever, and wishes he could find the hidden contract to set her free, but she cuts him off cold. Astery dismisses the notion, muttering that worrying about a witch is a completely useless endeavor. He walks forward, stating that he already knows the binding terms of the contract by heart. Dark shadows trail behind him as he strides across the floor. Recalling the strict rules that bind her to the territory, Sylvia reflects on how Rion helped her experience humanity in countless ways. Her long dark hair flows softly as she shifts her gaze. With striking red eyes and a confident smile, Sylvia vows to gladly stay by his side to protect him. Word spreads around the estate that a new maid has suddenly arrived. Rixel Astery, the second son of the family, wonders if she is really going to be his brother Rion's exclusive attendant. The towering grand estate sits beneath the warm glow of the evening sky. Someone questions the sudden news that a new maid was hired. A stack of heavy books rests quietly on a polished desk near a glowing window. Lixel sits with hands clasped, wondering why she is assigned specifically to Lion. As a brilliant fourth circle mage and genius heir resembling the family head, he finds the timing deeply suspicious. He narrows his purple eyes in silence as he thinks it over. Reviewing Sylvia's sudden retirement over a potion, he suspects something is definitely off about her replacement. Flashbacking to last night, Lixel asks Sylvia if she is really going through with her retirement. Sylvia thanks him, noting that Lion's potion was of great help to her. Sylvia suggests he go visit his eldest brother to see for himself. She reminds him how he used to follow Lion everywhere as a child, causing Lixel to blush and dismiss it. She laughs and tells him that her unbelievable words are completely true. She suggests that if he gets curious, it wouldn't hurt to follow the eldest young master around, leaving Lixel staring in silent doubt. He stands in silence, listening without a word. Lixel thinks back on it, realizing he couldn't stop her because she looked way too relieved, and wonders if all of this is really thanks to his foolish brother. Deciding he has to see it for himself, Lixel heads out after hearing rumors that his brother has been spending time in Mimir Forest. Wandering through the gloomy forest with no proper path, Lixel wonders what his brother could possibly find appealing in such a place when he could just ask John for alchemy herbs. Hearing a sudden noise in the bushes, Lixel stops dead in his tracks and spots his brother, completely stunned by what on earth he is doing. Panicking at the sight, Lixel lunges forward with his magic wand and screams that he can't eat that. Out of nowhere, he blasts a bolt of magic right at Lion, screaming at him not to eat something so filthy. The spell completely obliterates the roasted sweet potato on the ground, while both stand there in total shock. Moments later, he kneels on the grass in heavy defeat. A system window flashes red, confirming the sweet potato is now entirely inedible. Lion lets out a gut-wrenching cry over his destroyed meal, demanding to know who ruined it before spotting someone nearby. Lion calls out to Lixel, who panics inside because he was just planning to spy and slip away unnoticed. Lixel freezes up as Lion assumes he came specifically to check up on him. Convinced it is a rivalry check, Lion panics until Lixel stammers out an apology for the sudden attack, claiming it is too unhygienic to eat dirt-covered food, which Lion defends because it is just a sweet potato. Lixel formally describes the vegetable as a starch-rich root crop, leaving Lion completely speechless at such a stiff phrasing. Lion asks if he has seriously never eaten a sweet potato, leaving Lixel staring back in blank confusion. Lion expresses shock that someone has never eaten one before, telling him he is missing out, while Rion hesitantly takes a seat as Lion goes to dig up more nearby. He remembers that Rion can use fire magic and asks him to set up a small campfire for them. After Rion confirms he can manage it easily, Lion checks if the fire is ready and suddenly tosses items straight into the flames. As Rion worries that everything will just burn up, Lion calmly assures him the thick skin protects the inside, leaving Rion to quietly watch. The campfire crackles brightly against the dark forest backdrop. Rion stands quietly by the tree in the glowing warmth of the fire. Lion gazes thoughtfully into the distance while taking a break. Lion reflects that stepping away to do something completely different helps clear your head. He points out that taking a break matters just as much as pushing forward, prompting Rion to admit he finally understands. Catching a delicious aroma, Lion declares the food ready to eat, leaving Rion staring in wide-eyed surprise. A wooden stick pokes at the hot roasted treat amidst the crackling embers. Rion holds the steaming piece in his hands with a hesitant expression. Rion takes a bite and flushes with delight as the incredible flavor hits him. He takes a bite of the snack and admits it is delicious, while his brother grins and calls it a banana sweet potato. Even though the Astery territory stays mostly warm, chilly nights in the dark wind-swept forest always trigger serious cravings for hot bungeopang, roasted sweet potatoes, and fish cake broth. As Lion wolfs down his food, his brother watches in amusement, remembering how his own student days involved a bottomless pit of a stomach for snacks and ramen. Lion suddenly stops chewing as he notices the massive pile of sweet potato peels by the fire and panics, wondering just when he managed to eat so many. Blushing furiously, Lion stammers an excuse, but his brother just tells him to eat as much as he wants because taking care of the family house is hard work, and watching over a sick person is just as tough. Looking right at him by the campfire, Lion softly insists he never considers it a burden, and has never once blamed his brother before his voice trails off. Lion admits he feels a bit jealous because his brother has things he lacks. He quickly stammers that he is happy with his position and will keep trying, but Lion tells him that is enough. He tells him with a soft look that he is still just a kid. Lion tells his brother he is allowed to be a little selfish and can do whatever he wants when tired of studying. Sitting together by the campfire, Lion reassures him that he has done a great job. Thinking of Sylvia, Lion feels glad he came to see his brother. Astery sits on the bed, checking his status. He realizes he's saved up over 71,500 shillings and can finally unlock the shilling shop soon, having leveled up heavily while crafting medicine for Sylvia. Astery laughs off the rumor that grandfather got dumped by Sylvia, prompting an angry outburst from grandfather himself. Stretching out on his bed, he reflects on getting close to Rixel and figures he's safe from getting kicked out for now. When someone knocks, Astery opens the door to a shocking surprise as a dark-haired maid named Elvia introduces herself, instantly triggering a strange sense of familiarity. He figures she must have some secret background explaining why Sylvia suddenly retired, noting that fantasy worlds are bound to have all kinds of races. Exchanging polite greetings, Astery welcomes Elvia to her new post. Astery thanks her with a warm smile. He casually mentions how she helped him and his brother grow closer, leaving the maid completely baffled. Elvia apologizes and admits she has no idea what he is talking about, but Astery just laughs it off. Quickly grabbing his bag, Astery postpones the conversation because he is supposed to go out with Rixel. People walk through the bustling market square under the bright afternoon sun. He struggles to make sense of the strange situation. He stares ahead with a troubled expression, trying to figure it all out. He wonders how young Master's stamina can still be this bad, despite climbing the mountain every single day. Astery worries that mana shock is causing bodily deterioration, and decides he needs a priest to examine young Master, while slowing his pace to help his exhausted brother. Rixel reasons that they must avoid the house and temple while finding a priest, concluding that doing volunteer work at the temple is the safest and most reliable way to get close to them. Young Master asks where they are heading, and Rixel explains they need to buy disguise tools first because walking around as noble youths is too conspicuous. Young Master guesses they are going to a clothing store, but Rixel quickly corrects him. Rixel smiles with confidence as he announces they are heading to a magic tool shop. He arrives at a hidden magic shop tucked away in the territory. As they step inside, Astery marvels at discovering such a hidden spot, but his companion replies that only those in the know come here and insists there shouldn't be any illegal items. When questioned with a doubtful probably, Astery demands to know what he means by that. Completely bewildered by the vague answer, Astery demands an explanation. Stopping to inspect the merchandise, Astery hesitates before pointing out something odd. Astery wonders why all the intriguing items on display look like mere children's toys. His companion admits he discovered the shop back during his academy days, and as Astery catches on, he explains that despite their looks, many of these items pack very solid effects. The eccentric shopkeeper pipes up that they stock everything except hair growth medicine, bragging about their popular sinus potions and magic hair washing tools until Astery interrupts to say they are looking for disguise tools. Excited to hear they need disguise tools, the shopkeeper enthusiastically tells them to follow him right over. Nicholas guides them through the shop, showing off budget disguise tools like skinny bracelets and height-increasing insoles with quirky side effects. He then leads them over to the high-end options, explaining that those items can completely change hair color. While those premium items cost a bit more, they offer a perfect disguise that even a person's own parents won't recognize. Leaving the shop as the bell chimes, young Master notes it's an interesting place and vows to come back later. As Astery checks the paper bag, he figures they threw in a little extra something because they bought expensive items. He discovers an artisan repair kit tucked inside, realizing it's a valuable freebie, and handing it over to his brother since he has no use for it. Outside in the street, Rixel agrees it's time to put on their disguises and suggests stepping into a quiet alley. Young master is thrilled with his new look, declaring it a perfect disguise. Rixel points out they can walk around freely now, but when they arrive at a mill, Asteri questions why they are doing volunteer work there, and Rixel explains he is checking on the flour donation list. Asteri notes that this mill also bakes bread from fresh flour, while Rixel remarks that he thought mills only ground grain or pressed oil. Asteri figures he has another reason for being there, and Nicholas warmly welcomes them, saying he was expecting them. Asteri reveals his hidden motive is to befriend Nicholas, a devout believer known for generous donations, hoping to naturally approach the temple through him. Hoping to eventually meet a priest, Asteri asks Nicholas if the order is ready, and Nicholas readily confirms it is. Nicholas expresses how deeply moved he is by the high quality of the wheat, noting it has 0 bug bites before trailing off. When Nicholas asks why he is ordering so much flour, Asteri casually claims he wants to donate it to starving kids. The mill owner loves the idea and asks where he plans to send it, prompting Asteri to ask for recommendations. Nicholas pauses to think while Asteri silently prays. He mentions the temple, jumping with joy when he suggests the temple-run orphanage. Asteri asks how many kids live there. Nicholas estimates around 30 children, explaining that the temple's facilities used to be better off before subsidies started dropping. Nicholas rubs his chin, noting that since Asteri territory puts magic first, it is tough to get donations for a temple orphanage. Judging by his high-class look and huge flower order, Nicholas hopes this connection helps, but Asteri suddenly tells him to wait. Asteri confirms that they bake bread right here at the mill, pointing out that just donating flour means the kids will wait too long to eat. Asteri eagerly suggests they bake the bread on the spot. Asteri suggests baking fresh bread right away, figuring the kids at the orphanage might be short on ingredients. Nicholas eagerly agrees, boasting that his shop is famous for making the best bread around. Meanwhile, Lixel kicks himself for being so focused on his brother that he completely missed the orphanage's actual situation. Lixel watches his brother with a troubled expression. He silently decides his brother is thoughtful and calls it a wonderful idea, while Nicholas enthusiastically chimes in too. With everything settled, someone calls out to start baking right away as they face the workshop. Soft light filters through green leaves under a bright sky. Bags of flour and bottles of oil sit neatly on a wooden table. Asteri checks the supplies, noting they have plenty of flour and that the 2-star olive oil guarantees amazing flavor. Nicholas explains the basics of making a simple, popular wheat bread that kids love. He walks them through the entire recipe step by step, from mixing the flour and milk to kneading and shaping the dough. Looking at the easy steps, Lixel figures baking is a breeze compared to casting magic. Nicholas checks in on Asteri, wondering why the young master is taking so long. Asteri strikes a dramatic pose, claiming he needs a bit more time to feel the dough. Deciding to wait, Nicholas opens the oven to check on the first batch belonging to Lixel and himself. Opening the oven reveals a massive burnt disaster. Because Lixel used way too much dough out of greed, though Nicholas politely tries to comfort him. Nicholas checks the oven and spots the eldest young master's bread finishing up. Nicholas stares in utter shock at the unbelievable quality of the freshly baked bread. Nicholas demands to know how he pulled it off, but Nicholas just explains he wanted the children to have plenty of pretty, delicious bread. Realizing the brothers are baking with genuine care, Nicholas asks them to watch the oven for a moment because he has somewhere urgent to be. Nicholas quickly grabs his bag and tells the young masters he will be right back. The young master tells Nicholas not to worry about taking too long, but Nicholas insists he is fine. Nicholas dashes out the door, promising to return as fast as possible. Watching him run off, the brothers figure he must be busy and decide to keep baking. They motivate each other to work even harder on their baking. As achievement meters tick upward, progress toward the aspiring baker goal climbs rapidly. Freshly baked goods cool on trays while system logs track the ongoing task. Nicholas walks in announcing his return to the young masters. Young master looks surprised to see him back so soon. Nicholas explains that he brought a whole crowd because he was moved by their kindness. The villagers step forward offering whatever help they can provide. A woman explains her husband stayed behind at the forge, leaving her to come help. Young master quickly hushes her with a finger to his lips. A woman sets down a heavy travel case on the ground. Supplies pile up as sacks, bottles, and provisions are unloaded. Bags are tossed down from above as others watch in surprise. Heavy sacks crash to the ground in a cloud of dust near the group. They stare in disbelief at a woman casually holding massive bags of goods, whispering she used to wrestle bears. Astery and his brother celebrate the massive turnout of donated goods, praising the locals for being so kind-hearted. Looking at the heartfelt donations, Astery feels a bit ashamed since he only approached Nicholas to reach the priest. As long as his brother regains his health, he believes everything is worth it. Convinced of his sibling's incredible potential, he smiles while thinking that Astery is destined for greatness. Hours later, at the temple orphanage, the head caretaker bursts into tears of gratitude, thanking the young masters for their immense grace. Excited children crowd around the basket, catching a wonderful smell before being gently reminded to say hello first. More kids rush over in amazement, discovering pretty new clothes mixed into the generous pile of goods. The caretaker asks if they would mind handing out the bread themselves while she moves the rest. Astery gladly hands out fresh bread to the happy children, earning bright smiles and heartfelt thanks. Startled by a sudden shout, Astery turns around with a confused look. Nearby, a young girl happily chats with a dark-haired boy in the courtyard. Suddenly, that same child bolts away in a rush, leaving Astery wondering what happened. Astery asks the director about the kid who just took off, and she tells him that's Peter. She apologizes for the boy's rude behavior, explaining that the younger kids struggle to accept kindness, leaving Astery staring in silence. She urges him not to pay any attention to Peter's outburst. As Peter keeps running off into the distance, Astery softly calls out his name. As the orphanage staff notes that most of the children have already been fed, the young master pauses on his way out, explaining he noticed someone missing. He points out that Peter still hasn't received any bread yet. They explain that Peter's adoptions fell through 3 times because of his extreme shyness, causing him to refuse all donated food since. Observing the boy curled up by the tree, the young master notes he looks like Mudu's kids. He sees that the child is definitely too thin. Stepping over, he calls out gently and offers him the very last piece of delicious bread, but Peter just keeps his head down in silence. Peter glances sideways without speaking. To tempt him, the young master loudly praises the warm, freshly ground, chewy wheat bread. Suddenly, a loud stomach rumble breaks the quiet. Realizing the boy is actually starving, he points out that hunger gives him away. He figures that if it were just a tantrum, he would keep teasing him. But since the boy refuses food despite starving, he decides to give him some space. As the volunteers wave goodbye and head inside, the stubborn child remains behind in the quiet forest. He quickly dozes off under the shade of the trees. Waking up later, Peter mutters to himself about the hypocritical volunteers who only help to feel good. He complains about their constant interference until a familiar voice suddenly asks if he is awake. Startled out of his wits, Peter demands to know why he stayed, but Lion calmly replies he didn't want to wake him. Lion offers a loaf of bread, asking if he is hungry. When offered a piece, Peter proudly turns his head away with a huff. Lion double-checks if he really wants to pass. Seeing his stubbornness, Lion decides to take matters into his own hands. He immediately tears the bread right in half. Lion takes a big bite out of the loaf right in front of him. A panicking Peter demands to know what he is doing, but Lion casually explains he has to eat it so it won't go to waste. Panicking at the sight of his meal disappearing, Peter instantly yells that he will eat it after all. The young boy takes a bite and realizes with wide eyes that the bread is delicious. Lion Astery offers another piece of bread to him with a gentle smile. Surprised, the child listens as Lion Airy explains that he is giving away his own share. Staring closely at the treat, the boy thinks it poses. He wonders why such a normal piece of bread with no special ingredients tastes so good. Suspicion sets in as he remembers past caretakers who were kind before abandoning him all over again. Convinced that all adults are liars, he bitterly calls out to someone. Peter pauses with the bread in hand as he hears the words. Lion Astery gently notes that while upset adults usually skip meals, the boy is eating well. He admits he simply hoped someone would enjoy the bread he baked today. Expressing joy that the child likes it, Lion Astery leaves the boy completely speechless. Seeing the kid tear up, the young master teases if he is crying, making the boy frantically deny it and claim it is just the bread. When asked if that is really why, the boy quietly confirms it with a flushed face. Then the older man smiles warmly as he looks down at the young child. Overwhelmed with emotion, the boy softly thanks him for everything. The young master holds out his hand to seal a promise with a smile. He promises to bake more next time and holds out his pinky finger to seal the deal. Taken aback by the gesture, the boy listens as the young master assures him that an older brother never breaks his word. He casually notes he will eat too next time, leading the kid to ask, why, only 2 when he can have 3, though the young master groans at the thought of having to bake a ton more. Sylvia watches with a touched expression, admitting she has not seen that child smile in a long time. She reflects with regret that the children would have opened up to them too, if only they had shown the same sincerity. The young master proposes visiting the other children, and the boy happily agrees to go with him. Watching them walk away, Sylvia feels deeply ashamed of neglecting the orphans out of sheer busyness, deciding someone so genuine truly deserves a blessing. As the visitors get ready to leave, the orphanage residents call out their warm goodbyes and thank them. Before they can depart, Sylvia rushes over to ask the 2 young men to stay a bit longer after everything they have done. She points out that a priest is coming to pray for the children today, suggesting they receive a blessing before leaving. Internally celebrating his success, Lion smoothly agrees, telling her it would be rude to decline such a thoughtful offer. Sylvia leads the way, asking the brothers to follow her. A carriage races closer as someone mentions the priest is arriving. The mysterious figure inside the carriage prepares for his arrival. Lixel sits on a couch in the parlor. Lixel urges his brother to postpone meeting the temple priest due to potential dangers, but Lion casually agrees without a second thought. Lixel reacts in surprise when Lion abruptly stands up. Lion claims he suddenly remembered something to do back at the mansion, leaving Lixel bewildered. Lion tells his brother not to worry and happily excuses himself to attend his baking class. As Lion cheerfully heads out, Lixel realizes this accidental timing actually works out in his favor. Lixel figures he needs to meet the priest first to ensure the man holds no hostility toward their house. Lixel sneaks in to meet the visitor, who introduces himself as Licht, a high-ranking priest of the temple. Licht notes he heard about an anonymous donor, and Lixel confirms it. Lixel is surprised by Licht's young age, figuring a traveling priest must be exceptionally talented. Licht expresses gratitude on behalf of all the priests for the generous help provided to the temple. Lixel's modesty deflects the praise, explaining that his older brother put his heart into the donation idea, leaving Licht intrigued. He confirms he's talking about the guy who left early, explaining that his brother has been weak and sick since childhood. He admits his brother's condition remains severe, keeping his hands clasped tight as he shares the heavy news. He drops the act, confessing he only volunteered to get Licht to examine his brother in secret, prompting a thoughtful reaction from the priest. Licht covers his face, leaving Lixel wondering if he's getting turned down. Then Licht speaks up, setting a specific time 3 days from now. The priest asks Lixel to bring his brother along for an examination at that exact time. An exterior shot of the towering estate opens up the next scene. Lixel rushes in to chew out Asteri for staying up so late and neglecting his health. When Asteri asks why he's in such a rush, Lixel drops the bombshell that the priest agreed to examine him. Asteri reacts in surprise at the mention of his own body. Lixel explains the priest wants to return the favor, but Asteri figures he's just a bit weak now that his mana shock issues are gone. Lion reflects on his recent stamina boost from running around, figuring the offer isn't half bad, and decides to take it, leaving him thrilled when it's accepted. Lixel points out that meeting the priest at dawn is a bit odd, learning it's scheduled for 3 days later as they head to the temple orphanage. Lion spots high-grade holy water, and Lichten finds it impressive for someone so young before calling out to him as they arrive. Lion greets the priest, who welcomes them as benefactors and suggests they all sit down for a chat. Lion seizes the chance to ask why the priest requested an unusual dawn meeting, and Lichten pauses before answering. Lichten drops a bombshell, explaining he called them because he saw them in a prophetic dream sent by divine revelation. Licht asks Lion about a dream he had featuring children sleeping in a field with 2 familiar figures standing nearby. The priest explains that the dream left him feeling warm, prompting him to seek them out and confirm something important. Observing the brothers, Licht deduces that the younger mage likely hails from the prominent Asteri family and grows suspicious of their true intentions. Determined to find out more by examining the older brother, Licht steps outside and leaves the treatment in Lion's hands. Meanwhile, Licht steps out into the hallway and closes the door behind him. Inside the room, Licht prepares to begin his examination while Lion expresses his gratitude. Licht places his hand on Lion, channeling glowing green magical energy to perform the treatment. Licht is totally baffled when his divine spell doesn't work on the young master. He wonders how that is possible since his spell was flawless and his divine power is strong. Doubting himself, he panics as the magic suddenly backfires with a startling flash. Licht gasps in sheer shock as the unexpected reaction unfolds right before him. Lion smiles brightly, telling him that he actually feels a lot better now. He places a hand over his chest as the lingering magical glow fades away. Lion politely tells the priest that is enough, but Licht insists on checking further. He runs through the 3 main reasons why a body ignores a high priest's blessing. He recalls that either a stronger mage is blocking it, the target is already healthy, or they were simply born with a short lifespan, as Lion thanks him for the refreshing feeling. Calling him brother, Lion politely offers to return the favor if he ever needs help. Licht insists that Lion come to the temple whenever physical pain keeps him awake, leaving the young master confused. With a fiery look of intense dedication, Licht vows to help him no matter what, and Lion nervously agrees. As the priest heads out, Lion thanks him for his kindness, and Licht replies that it is nothing before parting ways. Lion watches quietly as the priest walks down the hallway. As Licht offers a final blessing for the days ahead, Lion scratches his head and wonders why he feels so uneasy. Back at Asteri Castle, morning arrives in full view. Lixil tells Lion he looks much better, calling their early morning trip meaningful. Lixil agrees, noting that while he was already in top shape, the divine healing completely cleared away all his baking stiffness and muscle aches. Noticing Lixil's heavy dark circles, Lion points out that he looks exhausted, but Lixil simply insists he is fine. Lixil announces he needs to head off for morning mana training, leaving Lion stunned. Sighing after him, Lion warns that pushing himself after staying up all night will catch up to him later. As they walk through the estate, Sylvia notes that the young master's grueling schedule has somehow gotten even busier. Jondo worries about his health, but the maid points out that he can simply bring it up with the family head during their upcoming coming-of-age ceremony meeting. Figuring the family head already has enough on his mind, Lion suddenly has an epiphany. He lights up with a brilliant idea and excitedly decides to bring him something sweet. Lion prepares cookie dough in the kitchen while a maid watches him work. He rolls out the soft dough evenly across the wooden counter. Lion thanks Sylvia for her baking idea, wondering if his grandfather even likes sweets, but the new maid Elvia corrects him that her name isn't Sylvia. Elvia notes that the family head will eat whatever the young master makes, though Lion insists he wants him to actually enjoy them. Lion suddenly remembers something as Elvia looks on with a puzzled expression. Elvia gasps in realization as she guesses what he is planning to do next. When Elvia asks if he is really going to use those, Lion cheerfully confirms his choice. Elvia calls it an unusual combination, but Lion sees it as the perfect chance for his grandfather to try something delicious. Lion explains he will chop up banana sweet potatoes to use instead of sugar so his grandfather can enjoy the natural sweetness without trouble. Lion demonstrates how to shape the dough with enthusiasm. Admiring the cute final shapes of the cookies, Lion decides he should ask Mudu to make him custom cookie molds later. Lion slides the molded cookies into the oven to bake. The special banana sweet potato chip cookies finish baking and reveal their fatigue-reducing alchemical properties. Lion wonders why food gives potion effects, and Elvia praises his natural talent with the dough. He takes a bite of the cookie and smiles as a system notification confirms his cooking proficiency is now level 3. Lion declares that the treat tastes even better than his past life's chocolate chip cookies. A new recipe for banana sweet potato chip cookies is successfully saved to his system. Elvia notes that sweets relieve fatigue and figures the family head will enjoy these, since they aren't overly sweet. Lion thanks her for the massive help, prompting Elvia to smile and say she only did her duty. When Elvia asks about packaging, Lion tells her to go rest because he can handle the rest himself, leaving her surprised. He explains with a grin that he still has something else to make. He silently reasons that he couldn't just open his inventory, with Elvia standing right there. Now that his cooking is level 3, Lion unlocks plenty of recipes and decides a beverage is next for synergistic effects. He selects a star anise from his options and prepares to make the training support beverage. A mysterious recipe description reveals the exact ingredients needed for a special crimson drink. Looking over the recipe, the young master figures both grandfather and Asteri will love it, though the ingredients feel oddly familiar. Deciding it does not matter since it pairs well with cookies, he focuses entirely on getting a high-quality rating. Inspecting a basket of fresh oranges and lemons, the young master notes how remarkably fresh the fruit is. Standing at the counter, he rolls up his sleeves and declares that it is time to begin cooking. He washes and slices the fruit, simmers lesser health potions on low heat, adds star anise once the fruit cooks, strains the fragrant liquid, and finishes it off with a single drop of aqua rosemary oil. Finishing the drink, he realizes it reminds him of Vincho, takes a sip to confirm it tastes great, and prepares to pair it with the cookies. Crafting his first set menu unlocks an achievement and earns him 3,000 shillings, making him wonder if that will be more than enough. The special beverage set combines cookies and a warm drink that fights off body aches and boosts combat training efficiency. Setting his bag aside on the table, the young master gets ready to move. Holding the tray with the prepared set, he asks himself if he should go see his grandfather now. The grand hallways of the estate stretch out under the soft light as he prepares to deliver his creation. Lion walks into his grandfather's study, asking if he's busy. Grandfather looks up from his desk, demanding to know what he's carrying and why servants aren't helping. Lion reassures him that he wanted to deliver it personally, explaining he brought a beverage made from his latest potion along with homemade cookies. Surprised, grandfather asks if he made them himself, and Lion proudly confirms he did. He explains he wanted to show off his progress in a fun way. As Lion offers the treats, grandfather picks up a bear-shaped cookie in silence. Grandfather's mouth opens as he bites into the treat. His eyes widen in sudden shock as he registers the taste. He gasps in astonishment, exclaiming that the cookie practically melts in his mouth. Grandfather marvels at the subtle sweet potato aroma, giving him an energy boost, noting it completely beats a standard baked banana with its perfectly balanced sweetness. Lion hits apprentice level 4 in cooking and notes that the system demands someone to enjoy the food for bonus experience. Grandfather tells him to speak up, catching Lion off guard as they converse. Grandfather demands he get straight to the point, prompting Lion to laugh and admit he cannot hide anything. Lion brings up that his coming-of-age ceremony is approaching soon. Lion asks if Asteri can rest until the ceremony, leaving grandfather wondering why. Pointing out that the whole family attends, Lion argues that Asteri's schedule is far too exhausting. Lion asks to ease up on the training intensity so the family can smile together, stunning grandfather. Grandfather melts internally, marveling at what a thoughtful and well-raised boy Lion has become. Grandfather reflects proudly on how the brothers formed such a strong bond instead of fighting over the family head position. Grandfather happily grants the request for autonomous training, thanking Lion before asking if that is all. When grandfather asks if he has any other ceremony requests, a stunned Lion can only ask for a pardon. Lion cheerfully declares he has zero greed, leaving grandfather to wonder who he takes after. Grandfather notes that the highlight of the coming-of-age ceremony is always the gifts. He explains that the ritual demands securing whatever the celebrant desires as the ultimate display of imperial wealth. Stunned that the young man wants nothing, grandfather starts piecing things together. Grandfather suddenly realizes the young master expects him to figure out a great gift on his own. Lion casually excuses himself and takes his leave. Left alone in the study, grandfather stresses over how to prepare the absolute perfect gift. Lion walks down the grand hallway toward his brother's office. Stacks of paperwork pile high across the desk inside. He suddenly bursts through the doors, calling out to Lixel in surprise. Lixel looks up from his desk, shocked to see his brother laughing at the mess. He flushes with embarrassment, wishing Lion hadn't caught him looking so overwhelmed. Lion smiles brightly and explains he brought a homemade snack for him to eat. The brothers sit together on the couch to share the snack. Lixel takes a bite and praises the delicious treat, complimenting Lion's natural baking talent. Lion tells Lixel he can take it easy on his workload until the coming-of-age ceremony. He adds that he got grandfather permission because Lixel looked completely exhausted. Lixel beams with gratitude, touched by his brother's genuine care. Lixel clarifies that his exhaustion wasn't from lessons, making Lion panic and wonder if he found a love letter. Sitting together, the brothers talk about the upcoming coming-of-age ceremony and what it means for them. Suddenly remembering something important, the younger mage realizes everything connects right back to the family ritual. The coming-of-age ritual takes place in the labyrinth of the library, a scaling magical archive where anyone who reaches the end gets a special item. Thinking Asteri is just worried about his lack of mana, Asteri brushes it off, calling him a sweet kid. But Asteri quickly corrects him, pointing out that the real problem has to do with their clothes. Surprised by this random shift in topic, Asteri asks if he means the official garments. Asteri asks if he has seen the outfit prepared by the family head, and Asteri admits he hasn't. Slapping a design sketch down onto the table, Asteri reveals the horrifying outfit, leaving Asteri completely shocked. The family head turns out to have zero aesthetic sense, making them realize the upcoming ceremony is going to be a total disaster. Asteri points out that an 8th Circle Archmage cannot possibly wear such a ridiculous costume in public. Asteri completely agrees with that sentiment, panicking over the sudden fashion crisis. Wondering why the family head is acting like this now, Astery realizes it is only because Sylvia used to stop him every single time. Lion tells Sylvia he'll find a way to stop this, while she reminds him of her point about matching family outfits in public. As he thinks about matching outfits, young children at the orphanage excitedly spot the young master and greet him. Lion greets everyone and hands over a bag of homemade cookies he baked himself, thrilling the kids. The children happily munch on the precious treats and ask what brings him here, prompting Lion to admit he needs a favor. When asked about the favor, Lion explains he wants to meet the talented tailor who volunteered at the orphanage before. He praises the artisan's incredible skill at making clothes on the spot from scrap fabric, and though she says it is possible to introduce him, she hesitates. Lion asks if there is another difficult issue to discuss. She tells him he will see once he gets there, leaving him standing outside a rundown building. Lion looks up at the battered wooden sign hanging over the entrance and wonders if this is the right place. Standing inside the dark doorway, the hooded young master wonders if he actually made it to the right place. Looking down the dim hallway lined with spooky mannequins, he questions why a supposedly talented artisan's shop is so utterly run down. Stepping forward to call out, the visitor startles a shadowy figure lurking nearby who immediately spots a customer. The tailor turns around with sparkling eyes and a dramatic greeting, scaring the young master so badly he jumps in pure shock. Recognizing the visitor from the orphanage, the tailor blinks in confusion at his changed hair and eye color before realization hits him. Rubbing the back of his neck, the blonde youth apologizes for hiding his identity, explaining he was only in disguise that day for personal reasons. Understanding right away, the tailor clasps his hands and notes that such secrecy makes complete sense coming from a noble heir. Curious about the visit, the tailor asks what brings someone of such high status out here, prompting the young master to admit he is looking for a skilled tailor. Taken completely aback, the tailor stammers that a powerful noble household like the Asterisk surely has no need for a modest artisan like him. Quickly remembering his manners, the flustered tailor invites his noble guest inside to sit down and talk things over in the back. Glancing at the shelves stacked with awards and fine materials, the young master gasps in awe upon spotting a prestigious prize from the Empire's top competition. Andri welcomes the young master to his humble parlor and pours him tea, but he easily pulls out his own homemade cookies to share. As the tailor inspects the sweet treats, he remembers the incredible bread the young master previously donated to the orphanage. He eagerly takes a bite of the treat and thanks him for the snack. The cookie hits him with an instant crisp crunch before melting away with a vibrant rush of flavor. The taste transforms into a thrilling rush, like a crown prince falling for a country girl, leaving him completely blown away. He screams that it is pure art, marveling at how the mysterious outcast youth before him holds such contrasting depths. Wiping his mouth with a handkerchief, Andri tells young master that the meal was truly wonderful, prompting the young noble to ask if he enjoyed it. Flushing with emotion, Andri declares he was almost moved to tears, adding that eating it filled him with endless inspiration. Andri notes that since young master came all this way and treated him to great food, he will speak with absolute honesty. The tailor guesses that the visit means young master wants to commission some clothes, and the young noble confirms it straight away. Andri says he can certainly craft the garments, and boasts that his patterns, cutting, and embroidery beat anyone else's, though there is a catch. He warns that if other nobles find out he designed the clothes, they will look down on it and subject young master to public ridicule, leaving the young noble to ask why. Andri confesses it is because he is the illegitimate child of a noble family, and young master reflects that entitlement makes people look down on others. Andri explains that nobles think selling luxury clothing to commoners ruins their prestige, which led rumors to spread and his sponsors to cut ties with him. The tailor suggests claiming an anonymous rookie made the clothes if he still wants a commission, but young master tells him to hold on and asks to see his work first. Andri apologizes that he disposed of all his noble client clothing and only has commoner wear left, but young master says that is fine since he just wants to judge his skills. Andri tells him in that case, before pulling back a curtain to reveal the handmade clothes he sells to his neighbors. Lion stares in absolute awe, shouting that it's an incredible festival of stars as floating windows pop up around the room. Staring at the high-star garments, young master realizes Andri's talent is completely wasted and demands 3 custom outfits for the coming-of-age ceremony. Andri panics that young master will be humiliated, but he cuts him off and insists on taking full responsibility. Holding up 3 fingers, young master sets the strict deadline for the upcoming ceremony. Tempted by the chance to work with fine fabric, Andri gives in and accepts the bold offer. A flushed Andri readily agrees, prompting a smug little chibi reaction from young master. Grabbing his quill, Andri eagerly asks for details, while young master outlines clean, elegant, and cohesive family outfits. Andri loses his mind upon learning even the family head will wear his clothes, reminding him the nobility despises him, but young master brushes it off completely. The tailor quickly stammers that of course no one would dare say anything against the mighty Asteri family before standing back in silence. Pumped up with excitement, Andri declares he will do his absolute best to craft the garments. As he brainstorms the perfect design, he asks if Asteri has a specific fabric in mind, only to be handed something unexpected. Andri loses his mind upon realizing he is holding the legendary Asteri fabric catalog, begging permission to open it. He flips the cover open with trembling hands. A bright golden light spills out as he gasps in pure awe. The pages reveal impossibly rare materials from across the continent, including elven hair and wizard-crafted fairy breath. When Asteri asks which one catches his eye, the tailor cries out that he loves every single one of them. Suddenly, Andri freezes in his tracks as he spots something else on the page. Young master inspects a fabric sample in a catalog, while Andri reminisces about a mysterious lady who used the exact same rare material in the past. Young master reads the system item description and gets totally stunned, realizing the rare fabric was actually crafted by his grandfather. Realizing the connection to his grandfather, young master insists they use the magical fabric for matching outfits and asks Andri to make them. Andri gets ready to take measurements when someone suddenly calls out from outside, interrupting them. Asteri walks in late, mentioning he brought over a bunch of supplies after hearing what was going on outside. Hearing the commotion outside, young master and Andri rush over to check what all the noise is about. Wagons loaded with top-tier tailoring equipment and materials arrive outside, leaving young master and Andri completely speechless. Asteri shows off his massive setup for the coming-of-age ceremony, but when he offers to let Andri keep his old tools, Andri immediately shuts it down. Asteri reacts with wide-eyed shock as Andri enthusiastically declares his readiness to replace every single outfit. Andri finishes taking measurements and expresses his gratitude for the young master's patience. Andri promises to craft an absolute masterpiece, prompting a quick warning not to overwork himself. With a wide grin, Asteri mentions that he has one more favor to ask by any chance. Asteri startles both men by asking if he can learn some tailoring skills when they have time. Andri stutters in disbelief, worrying about pricked fingers and dangerous sewing machines, but Asteri brushes it off. Asteri explains he just wants a basic feel for the craft rather than anything difficult right away. Curious about his sudden interest, Andri asks him why he wants to learn. Asteri praises Andri's incredible passion and eye for detail, explaining that truly understanding a creator requires learning their craft. He adds that every single stitch and drafted pattern has a definite purpose behind it. Deeply moved by the profound reasoning, Andri closes his eyes in emotional agreement. Andri gladly agrees to teach him everything without holding back, offering to measure the youngest master first while Asteri looks around. Lion Asteri marvels at the craftsmanship, wondering how anyone could make such a great piece of clothing from low-quality fabric. He inspects the pattern details, questioning how such low-grade materials turned into something so impressive. Lion Asteri holds up the trousers, figuring out how the pieces connect and wondering if he should try sewing it himself. Lion Asteri decides that using something too convenient right away feels like cheating since he lacks the basics. Wanting to start with hand sewing, he pulls out the artisan's repair kit he received as a bonus from the magic shop. As Lion Asteri uses the kit, he is amazed to see the magical needle and thread automatically thread themselves and turn brand new. Sitting at his desk, Lion Asteri prepares to begin working on the trousers. To his surprise, instead of being frustrating, the stitching calms his mind as he quickly gets the hang of it. Seeing a magical guideline appear before him, young master realizes just how easy cutting fabric is with the tool, pushing the completion rate to 80%. Holding up the finished fabric with flushed cheeks, young master decides the results are not bad at all. Startled by the noise, young master apologizes for being so absorbed in his work. As Asteri watches quietly, Andri inspects the work and is thoroughly astonished by how excellent the first-time stitching turned out. Suddenly struck with inspiration, Andri remembers that hand sewing is the foundation of custom formal wear after focusing too much on ready-to-wear. Lost in his own creative world, Andri raves about design details, prompting young master to suggest heading back. Before they can leave, Elvia reminds them that a dinner with the family head is already scheduled. Jondo interrupts the Marquis to report that the young masters have arrived and asks if they should head down to the dining hall. The Marcus quietly agrees to head down as he finishes up his paperwork. Walking down the hall together, Jondo notes how rare it is for the three of them to dine as a family, but the Marquise replies that they need these moments once in a while. The Marquis grumbles that he doesn't enjoy working all the time and only does it to protect his rascals, prompting Jondo to remind him that he is practically doing the Emperor's work. Fuming at those imperial family bastards, the Marquis sighs heavily that 50 years after the Demon War, they are still working an old man to the bone. He complains about how much longer he has to live, just wanting peace with his grandchildren. But Jondo reminds him that as an 8th Circle mage, he lives as long as an elf. Clearing his throat, the Marquis states that since the direct lineage gathered with great effort, he cannot miss it as the family head, and Jondo agrees. As the family head arrives, the grandfather reflects internally on wanting to spend his days in peace with his daughter's children, while vowing that no one must ever discover that child's potential. Right as Asteri warmly welcomes him. Looking at the spread, Asteri asks if this is a bit too extravagant for a simple family dinner. As they sit down for a family meal, grandson remarks that Rixel must have always eaten alone here while everyone else was away. He looks troubled as he pictures how lonely his brother must have been. Reflecting on that solitude, he murmurs that Rixel truly must have suffered. He agrees that they definitely need more days like this to connect. Overwhelmed with sympathy for his brother, he resolves to ask the family head for more family gatherings so Rixel never eats alone again. Grandfather breaks the silence by telling them to eat. Silverware cuts softly into a thick, juicy steak on the plate. Grandfather asks Rixel if his assigned task is going well, and Rixel confidently replies that he will handle it flawlessly. The two continue eating quietly as night falls outside the large arched window. Looking at Rixel with a tense expression, grandfather notes his delayed coming-of-age ceremony and asks about his health and what gift he wants. As grandson looks for a topic to break the tense silence, he nervously addresses grandfather. He suddenly asks if he ever crafted a special fabric for their mother, catching both men off guard. Grandfather takes a sip of wine and flatly claims he has no idea what grandson is talking about. Smiling faintly, grandson figures that talking about their mother clearly makes grandfather uncomfortable. Grandson continues by mentioning that he met a tailor earlier that day. He explains that during the introduction, he happened to find a very unique fabric hidden within their estate. Grandson turns to Rixel and asks him to confirm, remembering the exceptionally glowing fabric he brought along. Recalling the past, the tailor explains how a certain young lady used to love working with that exact type of fabric. Since that material vanished completely after she gave it away, grandson suspected it might have been their mother and decided to ask. Grandfather admits that discussing their mother is the exact topic the family avoids the most. He reflects that they cannot look away forever, noting that true comfort only comes when they can speak openly about those who passed. Asteri figures he needs a chance to talk things out, planning to use matching family outfits to fix their broken bond. Down at the end of the room, the grandfather agrees with him just like that. The Marquis admits right away that he crafted that special fabric with his own 2 hands. Surprised by this, his grandson asks why he bothered making it in the first place. The Marquis waves it off, claiming there was no grand reason behind it at all. He explains he only wanted to protect his daughter from harsh weather with magic wool, but sadly ended up with leftover fabric. Rixel realizes it is their mother's fabric and feels a sudden wave of emotion. The Marquis reflects quietly on how much Rixel must have secretly missed his mother. He regrets letting his own grief leave his grandchildren feeling so isolated and lonely. Asteri asks if there is enough of the material for formal wear, and the Marquis tells him not to worry about useless things. When Asteri casually asks when his grandfather is free to visit, the older man completely panics. As Asteri asks if the outfit was only meant for the 2 of them, the table reacts. Grandfather must wear it with them too, and since he's busy, they suggest inviting the tailor directly to the estate, leaving the head with a wordless sigh. The grandfather finally gives in, letting the grandson run his project while privately mocking his terrible fashion sense. He feels completely ready now that he can focus entirely on the upcoming coming-of-age ceremony. After that small victory, everything in the household goes surprisingly smoothly. Between the tailor's visits and the full financial backing from grandfather and Rixel, there's practically nothing left for him to do. With all that free time, he spends every single hour mastering tailoring, yet something still feels wrong. He sits at his table meticulously practicing stitches by hand. He wonders why no system notification has popped up yet despite all his hard work. Asteri stares at the handmade shirt, wondering why his talent refuses to awaken even though he crafted it from scratch without a sewing machine. Then, a sudden realization hits him in the dark. Panicking over his total lack of tailoring talent, he quickly reasons that if he lacked skill anywhere, it would surely be in cooking instead. As tools and ingredients float around his head, he questions whether he needed a teacher like Elvia or Mudu, before grabbing his hair in pure frustration over what could possibly be wrong. Moments later, Elvia steps in to announce that Andre has arrived at the estate. Grandson asks if the clothing is finished, and Elvia replies that the formal wear looked complete, but something felt off. When Asteri asks what kind of strange expression the tailor had, Elvia explains further. She looks right at him with a serious gaze, warning that the tailor acted as if something had gone terribly wrong. Elvia drops by to say, Andre has arrived looking troubled, leaving the young master wondering what could possibly be wrong. Pushing open the heavy doors, he steps through to find out what happened. As the light floods in, he stops dead in his tracks, staring wide-eyed at the sight. The entire room has been transformed into a fully stocked dressing space with racks of custom suits. Stunned by how the tailor pulled all this off alone, he spots Andre right away and calls out his name. Andre lights up at the sight of him, saying he's been waiting. The tailor holds up a garment, asking the young master if he wants to try on his new dress suit. He slips his arms into the tailored jacket. Gazing into the mirror, he's amazed by the masterpiece, noting that it's a remarkably rare hand-sewn high-end suit. Noticing the uneasy look on the tailor's face, he asks what's bothering him. Andre admits the suit turned out gorgeous, but warns there is still one major concern on his mind. A sudden system message tells young master he's got an amazing outfit, but can't wear it to the party, leaving him totally shocked. His anxiety flares up because something crucial is missing, and he needs to find it fast. He suddenly catches on to what's missing while checking his reflection in the mirror. He notes that the neckline is completely bare and lacks a focal point, and Andre beams with pride as young master points out the missing accessories like a necktie, bow tie, cravat, or even a pocket square. Young master reasons that those styling details are totally essential in high society, so he starts figuring out what works best. He pictures how the family's outfits should go, deciding that a formal necktie suits grandfather best while a youthful bow tie fits Lixel. Andre nervously asks for a huge favor and young master asks what it is. Andre begs him to finish crafting the rest of the family's outfits and handle the embroidery himself. Lion Astri blurts out in pure shock when Andre makes a wild offer. As the tailor insists on teaching him everything from ties to embroidery, young master stammers that he could never pull that off. He asks if it isn't completely disrespectful for an amateur to mess with a master's craft. When young master asks why he is being asked to do this, Andre pauses with a nervous expression before explaining. Andre explains that while taking the Lord's measurements, he realized the young lady he once sewed for was young master's mother. Andre recalls how deeply grateful she was to a humble tailor like him back then. That memory made everything click into place for the artisan. Andre realizes that whether back then or right now, making clothes for the ones you love carries immense meaning for the Lord. Andre reasons that since grandfather stitched the magic fabric for his family, it is only right for young master to finish it, because that care is something no artisan can ever copy, proving that tailoring isn't just about crafting the perfect garment. Moved by grandfather's efforts, young master clenches his fist and agrees to do his absolute best. Leaving himself in Andre's hands, young master is immediately invited to sit down and start figuring out the designs. As Lion sits sketching at his desk, he drops a sudden thought on Andre. The tailor checks the notebook designs, noting that Lion wants to give the Lord a dignified aura, while making Lixel look youthful and sophisticated, confirming with a grin that the young master wants Rixel to clearly stand out as the house successor. When Andre asks what kind of design he wants for himself, Lion just pauses to think. Lion decides to leave his own outfit for last, and Andre suggests starting right away with a basic necktie. Andre breaks down the anatomy of a necktie, pointing out the bar tack at the neck, the narrow small blade, and the wide large blade that sets the overall shape. Laughing off a sword analogy, Lion chuckles that he avoids those around grandfather because of the family feud, prompting Andre to note his sharp eye when asking about interfacing. Andre explains that they won't need interfacing this time around. As Andre smooths out the pricey silkworm silk, noting how well it holds a pressed shape, he enthusiastically tells Lion to begin. As the work finishes up, a chime echoes through the room. Andre awkwardly praises Lion's mediocre effort, prompting Lion to tell him to stop forcing compliments as a system item description pops up for the clumsy necktie before they move on. Sylvia asks young master if he has a specific design in mind for the embroidery. He excitedly replies that he wants to use their family symbol. He notes that a family seal acts pretty much like a brand logo. Andrea explains that connecting the leaf to the branch symbolizes how the family stays eternally united. Young master is deeply impressed by the profound meaning behind the sketch. Andre suggests starting the embroidery with that special meaning in mind. As he demonstrates with needle and thread, he stresses that capturing the right texture is key to making it look natural. Knowing there are no shortcuts, young master asks for just 3 days to get everything done. Andre beams with complete confidence, saying he truly believes in the young master. A few days later, a sharp poke interrupts the hard work as he accidentally pricks his finger. Sucking on his finger, young master reflects on how he practiced like crazy, even drawing his own patterns after burning through Andre's supply. Lion Asteri explains he deliberately avoided using the magic repair kit because relying on its shortcuts would stunt his growth as a tailor. Calling it sheer stubbornness, he stares at his clumsy, blood-stained amateur tie and admits that all this finger pricking makes him want to just quit and compromise. Leaning back in his chair with aching shoulders and burning eyes, Lion Asteri takes a breather from the exhausting hand-sewing session. He glares down at the unfinished fabric resting on his desk, refusing to let fatigue win. Refusing to give up, Lion Asteri convinces himself to keep pushing forward now that he is finally starting to pick up speed. Caught completely off guard by a sudden system notification, Lion Asteri realizes his grueling pain has finally awakened the tailor talent at apprentice level 1. As he eagerly grabs his scissors to speed through the work, a sudden system alert stops him dead in his tracks. Staring blankly ahead, Lion Asteri starts wondering if unlocking a crafting talent follows a specific hidden rule. He connects the dots, realizing the real key to awakening a talent is how desperately he actually needs the item. Reflecting on his past, Lion Asteri recalls how his blacksmith talent awakened only when he urgently needed tools to brew potions. He remembers the exact same thing happened with cooking, but tailoring refused to unlock because he was just practicing without any desperate need. Slamming a thick book down onto the desk with a grin, young master declares that this is exactly what he needs right now. Working without the repair kit, he realizes his handiwork is turning out great, triggering the artisan's touch and boosting the necktie's value. Thrilled that the skill finally activated, young master immediately starts embroidering glowing golden details onto the fabric. Combining the pieces unleashes a powerful set synergy, leaving young master ecstatic as he completes his very first 4-star item. 2 matching items merge into a single set, pushing the rating up with a synergy bonus as young master celebrates his success. He marvels at crafting his very first 4-star item, only to discover it comes loaded with extra options. Stunned by the incredible result, young master figures that finishing his and Lixel's outfits will be a breeze. He tells himself to stay calm and take things steady. Sharp shears slice cleanly through a crisp white fabric. Hands shape the cut fabric into an elegant bow accent. With Lixel's outfit finally finished, young master realizes the hardest part is sorting out his own. He stands before the mannequins, knowing his own attire needs to be just right. Young master worries about upholding his house's reputation and figures he needs a proper necktie for the ceremony. An idea strikes him to cut down a long necktie into a custom stick tie. Sketching his design, he decides a special jewel should be the highlight in the center. He wonders if he should raid his grandfather's old collection of jewels for the project. Looking over a dazzling box of jewelry, he spots a piece that catches his eye and decides it's the right fit. Holding up the purple gem, the young master remarks that its color looks just like his family's eyes. He positions the jewel carefully against the collar, figuring out where it needs to go. With a quick attachment and a flash of light, he announces that the outfit is finally finished. A sudden system prompt announces a massive achievement payout, rewarding him with 25,000 shillings in total. The huge cash drop officially unlocks the shilling shop, leaving him completely thrilled by the sudden windfall. He eagerly turns toward the shop interface to check out what's inside. Before he can even look, a sudden intrusion startles him right out of his seat with a loud shriek. Lixel storms into the room looking furious, demanding to know why his brother is still sewing after pulling a 3-day all-nighter. With a stern expression, Lixel orders him to go to sleep immediately, making the young master yelp in panic. The maid agrees with the youngest master and scoops him up into a sack to carry him off to bed. Waking up in a panic, he refuses to sleep because the shilling shop just opened. He desperately begs to be allowed to look at it for just 1 second. Elvia compliments him on how wonderful he looks today, especially pointing out his matching tie. Reflecting on all the hard work that paid off, young master recalls how happy Andrew was. Looking back at how frail the young master used to be, Elvia marvels at how fast time flies. Walking down the hall, Lixil appears and asks his brother if he slept well. Surprised to see him, young master asks if Lixil was waiting for him, and Lixil simply says yes. Lixil offers to escort young master from here since today is a special day. As the grand doors swing open, Lixil tells young master that he is the star of the show. Music fills the brightly lit ballroom as guests mingle under dazzling chandeliers. The guests marvel at the grand decorations, agreeing it is even more magnificent than an imperial banquet. Nearby, guests chat over wine about whether rumors regarding the family are true. Then the crowd buzzes as the grand entrance is officially announced. As more figures step forward, onlookers quickly spot Lixil walking in. Someone watches closely with a knowing smile as the spotlight shifts. Amidst flashing lights and applause, the young master finally makes his entrance. Some guests whisper doubts, figuring he looks totally overshadowed by everyone else. Grandfather immediately calls out to him, and he politely responds. The family head warns him to stay away from certain sketchy people in the crowd. When asked if he is worried, the old man snaps back and tells him to prepare for the banquet. He reassures his grandfather with a smile, privately noting he has no interest in flattering crowds. Stepping into the hall, Lion states his only goal is right on his mind. Welcoming everyone, Lion Asteri announces his coming-of-age celebration while aiming to leave a good family impression. Thanking the guests, Lion pauses mid-sentence as his brother wonders why he suddenly looks so trustworthy. The crowd whispers in awe as guests notice how captivating the young lord looks today. Observers agree that beneath his ordinary appearance, his custom suit is incredibly special. Onlookers praise the simple yet elegant attire that brilliantly elevates the wearer to another level of nobility. Nobles wonder which unknown designer crafted such a piece since no famous tailor was hired. Grandfather casually remarks that he just used his head, leaving Lixil completely startled. As Lixil wonders if this was all calculated beforehand, Grandfather notes that he has always been quick-witted. Up on the stage, the young master welcomes the guests, telling everyone to relax and enjoy the banquet until tomorrow. He flashes a wide, beaming smile as the crowd applauds his speech. His brother rushes over to praise the incredible speech, wondering when he managed to practice it in secret. Laughing it off, he jokes that it is just the seasoned experience of working years in a Korean office. Grandfather watches closely, remarking that the Asteri bloodline never fails to impress with such presence. Praising the young master for a job well done, Grandfather receives a polite and respectful thank you. The group decides to wrap up the conversation and finally head off to enjoy the banquet. Over dinner, Grandfather suddenly pauses to call out to Lion by name. Grandfather asks if he has finally decided what item to bring to the upcoming ritual of the labyrinth. Lion reflects on how the reward received from the labyrinth directly depends on the item brought inside. He notes that while books grant knowledge and staves grant spells for normal mages, his non-mage status makes the outcome a total mystery. Raising his glass, Lion proudly announces his decision to bring a custom potion that he crafted himself. As the family head speaks up at the dinner table, Asteri casually mentions his plans. He decides to bring a potion he crafted himself. Asteri explains that since he lacks magic talent and high-grade gear, and his outfit is just Andri's tailoring with a homemade tie, he'll bring his own best creation instead. The grandfather calls it a wise decision, noting that the labyrinth will grant knowledge suited to his abilities anyway. The family head closes his eyes with a thoughtful expression. Then he asks if there is one more thing he must know. The grandfather asks if he has any interest in politics or the succession, prompting an immediate denial. When questioned about answering so fast, Asteri vehemently insists it will never happen. Asteri adds that he already expects Lixil to become the family head, touching his brother deeply. The grandfather turns his attention directly to Lixil. He asks if Lixil can cherish his brother with his very life, and Lixil solemnly swears it on their house honor and mana. The family head accepts the oath. As he takes a sip of wine, he reflects that he never expected their biggest worry about the succession to be resolved so quickly. Someone proudly declares that right now, the biggest threats facing Asteri are the imperial family and the elite swordsman house. Family head narrows his eyes with a suspicious expression. As they discuss the royals, the man notes that the royal family is too wrapped up in succession fights to pose any real worry. The focus shifts instead to the real problem, which is House Bedentis. Their brutal kin-slaying ritual just ended, leaving a young girl to carry all that bloodshed, which makes them barbarians who are currently too tied up in internal chaos to deal with outsiders. Elsewhere, Family Head tells Asteri he can live his life however he wishes as an Asteri, prompting the young lord to ask what happens if he causes trouble. Family Head tells him to go ahead, but adds a warning. When Family Head's eyes glow with terrifying fury, vowing not to let it slide if he gets hurt, Asteri immediately decides to live as peacefully and safely as possible. Someone tells everyone to finish their meal. A wide view shows the crowded banquet hall lit by a massive chandelier. Asteri figures his grandfather and Lixel must be exhausted dealing with all these nobles. He starts to say he has work to do too. Asteri notes he has his own tasks as someone greets him. A noble woman asks who designed his splendid outfit, and Asteri proudly calls her his first customer. Suddenly, several other guests rush over begging to know as well. Faced with a massive crowd, Asteri wonders if this is the sheer power of a 4-star item before asking if they want to know the creator. He pauses to mention a slight concern, leaving the guests baffled. Asteri drops a bombshell by claiming the designer is an outcast noble child who sold clothes to commoners. The guests whisper in shock, noting that the first prince's faction cares deeply about those things. Someone at the banquet wonders if the second prince is illegitimate, figuring Andri just got caught in a royal rivalry. He offers an introduction to the eager crowd, playing along with their enthusiasm, before revealing the tailor's identity. He holds a glass of wine with a sly grin. He announces that Andri is the man behind the outfit, operating right in the southern part of their house's territory. The listeners gasp in utter shock, realizing the missing tailor was under the protection of Asteri all along. Asteri warns them to hurry if they want a booking since only 3 spots remain, sending the crowd into a panic. Suddenly, a voice halts the commotion. Clarentia steps forward to demand answers about that specific tailor. As the head of the prestigious swordsman house Bidentis, she bluntly asks if he takes reservations for any kind of clothes. While the surrounding nobles whisper in curiosity, Asteri politely addresses her as Marquis Bidentis. He recognizes the prestigious swordsman house and politely asks what kind of clothes they would like. Sylvia replies that she wants to order a training uniform and some comfortable casual wear. Someone nearby suddenly gasps that the clothes they had are all completely ruined. The terrified crowd stares in absolute shock. Sylvia glares with terrifying glowing red eyes. Frightened by the intense glare, Sylvia suddenly makes up wild excuses about a hurting back and a forgotten stove, rushing away. Asteri and Sylvia stand in complete awkward silence as everyone bolts. Asteri figures everyone is just terrified of her after she survived a brutal succession ritual. Brushing off the rumors, Asteri turns into salesman mode, warning that a large order takes time and asking if she needs to pay a deposit. Sylvia tells him they will arrange the details separately after the party. As she walks away, Asteri thinks it went surprisingly smoothly and prepares for the next client. Asteri announces that the spots are fully booked and asks if anyone else wants the waiting list. Eager nobles frantically wave documents and rush to secure their tailoring orders. He checks over a heavy custom book with satisfaction before Elvia interrupts to announce the family head is ready for the trial. Asteri stands in front of the grand magical doors. An observer watches from the shadows, remarking that he carries himself just like the eldest grandson of the house. Asteri turns around to face his grandfather standing before him. First Prince Theras spots Asteri and mocks him for not looking nervous, knowing full well he can't use magic. Lixel steps in front of Asteri to shut down the teasing, declaring there is no reason for his brother to be nervous. A spark of magical electricity flies as Lixel glares at the first prince, reminding Asteri of their grandfather. Asteri hands a small container to his brother, warning him to be careful with the custom potion inside. Asteri stands alone in the dimly lit hallway, holding the strap of his bag with a quiet, confident smile. Walking through the old library, he recalls how he used to sneak in here as a kid because it was his only escape when his talent failed to awaken. He wonders about the legendary treasure hidden by the first family head after the Demon War, figuring it has to be an insane item in the game. As he thinks about its value, Elvia hands him what he needs, and he thanks her. He deliberately cuts his finger to draw blood. Nearby, Jondo watches in shock as the heavy doors begin to shake intensely just from opening. Asteri stands at the center of a glowing magic circle as the massive doors swing wide open. Suddenly, a powerful surge of magical wind hits him, making him reel back in surprise. The guide explains that Asteri's library labyrinth clears itself peacefully unless someone tries to damage it, turning it into a trap. Suddenly, things take a terrifying turn. Panic sets in as everyone realizes something is wrong, and they yell out warnings. Lion senses that something is completely off, wondering if the library was ever meant to open like this. He gets engulfed in a blinding wave of mysterious energy. Astery and his grandfather reach out in horror as he starts getting pulled away. Suspended in a golden void, he officially achieves the labyrinth of books. System prompts grant him full library access, massive stat boosts, and a high-purity mana circle. Chaos erupts in the grand hall as guests scream out in terror, begging for help while desperately searching for the marquise. Panic spreads everywhere as the massive chandelier starts to violently break apart from the ceiling. As the heavy chandelier plummets toward them, a glowing magical shield suddenly appears to protect the terrified guests. Grandfather stands tall amid the glowing magical barriers as raw power surges around him. Astery immediately orders Rixon to head to the banquet hall and guide the sheltered guests. Moments later, Astery rushes over to call out to the family head with deep concern. Astery explains that the library has gone berserk, prompting the family head to take charge of the crisis. He asks about the princes amidst the chaos. Theris replies that they are safe, thanks to him casting protection magic. He expresses relief that everyone managed to stay safe. Astery tells Astery to send a healing mage to the injured and prepare a resting area. He declares he will guard the labyrinth entrance himself, leaving the rest to Astery, who panics in shock. As Astery objects that it is too dangerous, Astery cuts him off with a firm refusal. Astery insists that as the next family head, he must step up and do his duty. Theris warns of the labyrinth's unknown state, but Astery scoffs at the idea that it is dangerous for him. Astery orders Astery to go now, leaving the young man standing in tense silence. Theris agrees to leave, assuring him Lion will be fine, while another guest offers to help as well. Astery watches them leave with a troubled look, whispering a worried call to his brother. He stands in heavy silence as the group steps through the doorway. Astery notes the labyrinth's unusual state and worries what will happen if Astery gets caught up in it. Someone points out that he is staying behind, even during such an emergency. Addressing the head of House Bidentis, Clarentia asks why she stayed behind instead of leaving, noting her absolute certainty that he is still alive. She presses on, asking if she already knows how this ends, as if she can see the future, before casually dropping that she will help out. The elderly man reacts with surprise to her unexpected offer of assistance. Suspicious of her motives, he points out that helping them goes against her own house's best interests. She explains with a cold shrug that she ordered custom clothes through him and hates having her plans disrupted. Turning around, Clarentia mentions she will be waiting nearby while they handle things. Clarentia walks away as Astery and Elvia arrive on the scene. Astery praises the boy's incredible insight, and Elvia readily agrees. He orders Elvia to cast a barrier around the labyrinth, and she immediately obeys. Astery declares that no information can escape, adding that they must restore the labyrinth's exterior first. Only by doing this, he concludes, will Lion finally find a way to escape. Lying back in the quiet field, the young master hums to himself as he relaxes outdoors. He keeps humming while a butterfly rests nearby in the bright scenery. He realizes an achievement unlocked for clearing the labyrinth, though he has no idea how he actually did it. He looks over the reward map, figuring the cleared labyrinth should be completely safe now. Wondering how to claim the prize, he recalls that in the game he just had to select yes. Astery figures out that the original Lion used to wander in and out easily, wondering what actually changed. He rules out his slight mana increase as the trigger, knowing other family members would walk right through. He then wonders if his strange possession could be the real reason behind it all. Astery remembers that his grandfather supposedly hid the treasure here after ending the Demon War 50 years ago. Recalling the hero who vanished after that war, Astery realizes this is his very first visit since possessing the body, and wonders if the labyrinth recognizes him as someone else entirely. He figures out that the game's setting revolves around fighting the demon race, realizing with a sudden shock that the treasure his grandfather hid might actually belong to the main character's gear. Rion figures that since the Demon War sets the game world where players save humanity, the sealed relic his grandfather left behind might actually be his main character's legendary gear. Rion sits outdoors amidst a grassy landscape. He reasons that if this item truly belongs to his main character, the system might have registered retrieving it as pulling from stored inventory. Rion stands up, realizing he can't stay forever and needs to figure a way out through trial and error since his low first circle mana cannot handle high-level illusion magic. Walking through the field, he spots white flowers and suddenly notices they are planted in a very specific pattern. He notes that the map follows a strict rule where only one type of flora grows per area. Seeing different plants mixed together makes him realize something important. Rion concludes the area is artificially divided, meaning the spot breaking the rules holds the key to escaping, right before he gasps at a sudden discovery. Wandering through the strange field, he wonders if this clustered patch of incompatible plants is the right spot. Closing his eyes, Rion zeroes in on his heartbeat and dives inward, discovering his own mana circle for the very first time. He focuses his energy and channels mana straight into his eyes, temporarily boosting his expert's eye skill. Dodging dangerous traps hidden among the triple plant clusters, he realizes this spot isn't what he's looking for. Deciding not to waste any more time here, Rion smiles and keeps moving forward through the glowing field. He walks calmly across the vast meadow as glowing magical currents swirl past him. Stepping onto a specific spot, Rion triggers a system update that reveals the hidden name of the area. Spotting the source of the illusion mana threads, Rion kneels down and wonders if he needs to dig underground to inspect it. Realizing he needs something to cut a mana thread, Rion checks the shilling shop and triggers a notification that all items are unlocked. The shop opens up to display its contents. A membership tier confirmation pops up showing bronze status. As a new survival tab appears, Rion checks the available gear, only to find bizarre and impossibly expensive items that leave him wondering if it is a total scam. Complaining about the ridiculous prices, Rion asks the shop interface if there is a way to filter items he can actually afford. The shop prompts him with a filter option, thrilling him when he realizes it actually works. Rion sets a filter for items under 120,000 shillings including discounts, but notes that most options still do not fit his current situation. Weighing his choices between a pricey magic detector and practical sharp scissors, Rion reasons that he lacks the skills to break illusion magic anyway, making the scissors his best bet. Rion confirms the purchase of the sharp scissors, watching all his hard-earned shillings vanish in an instant as the item binds to him. Holding the newly purchased pair of scissors, Rion feels glad it's a permanent binding and hopes everything goes well. He gets right down to business, getting ready to dig up the source of the mana thread. All that daily crafting and gathering finally pays off for the young master, who remarks that digging is a piece of cake now. He swings his tool into the glowing ground, tearing through the earth with practiced ease. Suddenly, a system alert warns that the skill boost is ending in a minute, catching Rion totally off guard as he yells out in shock. His shovel hits a solid object buried beneath the magical soil. Rion's eyes go wide with excitement as he spots the target right beneath his tool. Urging himself to move faster, he resumes digging with everything he's got. He reaches down and hauls a heavy chest right out of the dirt. Lifting the prize into the air, Rion grins widely, realizing it looks exactly like the reward chest from the game. With the system countdown hitting its final 10 seconds, Rion snaps his scissors open, totally unfazed by the ticking clock. Rion celebrates as he successfully unlocks the chest and secures his reward. He claims the bound item into his inventory, figuring it truly belongs to him after all. Before he can inspect it, the system forces him straight into a mandatory story mode memory. Panicking, Rion wonders what this unexpected development means. He frantically questions what is happening as the dark scene takes over. The scene shifts into a dark, grand hallway where several figures gather. Grandfather asks Ligsel about the cover-up, and Ligsel confirms they blamed the chaos on an earthquake with no extra complications. Ligsel adds that they secured cooperation from both princes and the head of the swordsman family to stop rumors. Grandfather notes that rumors won't spread among the imperial family and nobility, glad the first prince's incompetence came in handy. Ligsel asks about the temple and the underworld, but Grandfather reassures him they acted fast enough to hide his brother's whereabouts. The family head agrees they did well, stressing that whatever happens, they must never let information leak to those two factions. The temple and the underworld possess the intelligence networks to uncover the truth, risking that they might realize Rion holds a special power. It turns out Rion is indeed connected to the hero in some way. Starting from the hero's potion to the anomaly in the labyrinth, there is definitely something about Rion that even he doesn't know. Grandfather resolves to keep this information completely hidden until he figures it out, suddenly reacting as a strange disturbance ripples around them. As the labyrinth starts shifting, the family head tells everyone to brace for the impact, while Rion senses a massive power surging from within. Something bursts out straight at them, leaving everyone stunned until Rion picks up the mysterious folded note that just appeared. Lion looks over a hurriedly written letter and confirms it's his elder brother's handwriting. As he notes the paper has 0 bloodstains or contamination, Grandfather asks what it actually says. Lion hesitates to answer. Suddenly, a system notification pops up confirming player entry into story mode. Lion's eyes flutter open in the darkness. Clutching his throbbing head, Lion realizes he's somehow ended up inside story mode as a video playback begins. Watching from the sidelines, Lion realizes he's viewing someone's memory as a cloaked figure tells someone named Petrick to take charge. The cloaked figure holds out a mysterious chest. Recognizing Petrick, Lion panics as he realizes this is the exact day his grandfather received the item from the hero. Struggling with blurred vision and muffled sound, Lion curses himself for using random character customization because he can't remember who he's looking at. Before he can figure it out, the system alerts him that he's peeking into a stored memory and boots him out of story mode. Sitting on the floor of the ruined library, Lion wonders why the vision gave him so little information. He feels frustrated that the memory showed him something important, but left out most of the details. He figures the treasure dates back to the Demon War and was left with his grandfather for safekeeping. Lion examines the ability-blocking accessory set he just unlocked from the chest. He recalls that in the game, these items were just a must-have for bonus experience rather than rare finds. Since the items showed up right when he needed to mask his mana, Lion decides to check his stats and accepts the system prompt. Lion is shocked to see that his first circle is massive and stores an absurd amount of mana compared to ordinary mages. Lion stares blankly at the overwhelming mana circle data flashing before his eyes. Deciding that a giant mana pool is ultimately a good thing, he shrugs it off since the accessory will keep it hidden anyway. Lion celebrates scoring a treasure-grade artifact from the game, but quickly realizes he is still trapped inside the labyrinth. As he looks for a way out, a sudden system warning blocks his access, naming him as the current owner of the library. He figures out clearing the labyrinth made him the owner, muttering that this unexpected twist completely ruins his plan. Finding out the entrance is broken too, Lion panics at the thought of his grandfather chewing him out for causing such a massive disaster. Realizing he can restore it himself, Lion rejects a full reset to keep his items, opting instead to manually roll back the library's state. He sets the rollback to a week ago, only to be hit with a notification that the process will take an alarming number of hours. Upon realizing 672 hours translates to a whole month of being locked inside, he loses his mind in total despair. Lion asks if he can at least roam the labyrinth while it restores, and the system lets him know he's free to move anywhere on the premises. He then checks if he can send messages outside during the process, finding out an inactive book return slot works as a perfect way to let grandfather and Lixel know he's safe. With a calm smile and a slight sweat drop, Lion says all right and gets ready for the next step. As the restoration officially kicks off, a massive timer pops up showing a staggering 671 hours remaining, making Lion grin in satisfaction. Lion immediately asks to be teleported straight to the deepest part of the labyrinth. Arriving amid a swirl of glowing magic and scattered leaves, he finds the teleport feature pretty handy and figures out he just needs to survive here for a whole month. Turning around to plan his survival, Lion suddenly spots something unexpected and stops dead in his tracks. He stares in utter shock as he realizes a massive lake is sitting right in front of him. Walking up to the water, Lion mutters that he can't believe a lake this huge exists inside the labyrinth, figuring it doesn't look dangerous at all. A system pop-up instantly ruins his peace of mind by mentioning bilaterian aquatic fauna and decapoda organisms, leaving a chibi lion begging for a simpler explanation. The labyrinth notes that the lake holds plenty of edible fish and crustaceans. He learns he can catch anything from common to rare grades, though there's only one rare fish in the whole lake. Lake fishing unlocks by authority of the library owner, but Lion realizes he doesn't have a rod until he remembers he's got one. Relaxing by the water, he's glad the shilling shop sells gear, even if it cost him a pretty penny. He was ready to eat bait just to survive, but catching small fish means he won't starve to death after all. Suddenly, the fishing float bobs aggressively in the water. Lion gasps as something massive tugs on the line, feeling completely different from anything he's caught so far. Struggling against the heavy pull, he tells himself to stay calm and take it slow against whatever giant is on the hook. Lion stands against a bright sky, telling himself not to rush as he battles something on the line. The fish breaks the surface of the water as he declares he is almost there. He reels back while shouting that he finally got it. A system window pops up to congratulate him on catching a 2-star labyrinth carp. A small illustration highlights the newly acquired labyrinth carp and its fishing bobber. Lion hooks a massive labyrinth carp, landing his first big catch in the lake. He inspects the rare fish, amazed by its sheer size and pristine quality. The intense fight awakens a brand new fishing talent, and Lion decides to cook the nourishing carp for dinner. With dinner secured, Lion wonders where he should set up his makeshift cooking station. He unpacks a stash of cooking supplies and alchemy tools he had previously packed just in case. Lion spots a mysterious promotional magic flint, realizing it will make starting a fire effortless. By the water, he sets up a cozy campfire and figures it really sets the mood. He steps over to the wooden table, ready to get the carp prepped for cooking. As he starts slicing, he enjoys the simple vibe of cooking out in the open. He notes that primitive roasting is the absolute best way to handle it. When a notification pops up about the carp's entrails, he realizes he can use them for alchemy. Dropping the material straight into his alchemy pot, he waits to see what happens. The pot starts heating up on its own because it's an alchemy material, and Lion finds it super convenient. He preps skewers with various ingredients, wondering if putting food on a stick just makes it taste better. He explains his technique of skewering the fish head down so the grease drains out while the juices lock inside. He holds up a skewered fish right over the blazing flames. With the fish roasting over the campfire, he announces that the prep work is finally done. Out in the labyrinth wilderness, he wonders if he should set up his camp bed while his meal cooks. He admits it's a bit of a hassle, but figures he has to be diligent to enjoy a little outdoor romance. With the tent set up right on schedule, Lion sits back and happily savors his meal by the fire. Examining his freshly roasted fish, Lion notices a system warning and wonders if labyrinth delicacies must be eaten right here. Deciding not to worry, he digs into the meal with gusto and thanks the food for the great flavor. He completely melts over the crispy fried scales and tender meat, wishing he had some white rice and kimchi to go with it. He digs into the roasted labyrinth carp, noting its lack of muddy odor and deciding he wants to share it. A system message pops up to announce his maximum mana increased slightly, leaving him completely stunned. Sitting by the fire, Lion watches his stats in disbelief as he realizes his mana pool actually grew. He watches his mana circle pulse with newfound power, wondering if eating food is really enough to expand his pool. Figuring mages would fish the lake dry if they knew, he immediately wonders if this trick would work on Lixil Asteri too. Deciding he has to feed it to Lixil Asteri later, he preps another fish while the campfire crackles. Lion checks out an item drop and finds a skilled rank requirement for the first time, figuring its effect must be massive. He stares silently at the item in his hand. Lion stands quietly in the dark holding the glowing orb, deep in thought. Unable to fight his curiosity, he sets it aside for now since he hasn't had time to focus on alchemy lately. In the meantime, he checks out the large variety of herbs he has managed to gather. Noting the abundant materials inside the labyrinth, he realizes the overflowing mana makes this place ideal. With a confident grin under the sunset, Lion realizes this secluded spot is his personal paradise. He realizes he's stumbled onto his very own personal power leveling zone. He notes there are way more resources here than he thought, but decides to finish his roasted carp first. Smiling with glee, he thinks this setup is just perfect. Days pass as he survives in the labyrinth, happily catching 3 giant lobster-like freshwater crayfish in a single day. Holding up his net, Lion grins and talks about how lucky he's been. After storing his catch, he considers making sujebi with leftover flour and hums cheerfully as he walks barefoot, getting used to life here. His morning routine involves checking his fish traps and inspecting the crops he planted near the forest. He inspects the banana sweet potatoes and is pleased to see they are growing great. Squatting in the lush forest with a small tool in hand, he figures he can focus on gathering other things today. Picking up a bunch of wildflowers, he admires how beautiful his first crown daisy looks. Thinking it would look nice planted near the campsite, he keeps inspecting his finds. Suddenly, a floating description window pops up right in front of him, leaving him completely baffled. His eyes go wide in shock as he reads the selling price and realizes he can actually sell this item. Lion realizes he can actually sell his gathered flowers through the shilling shop interface. He wonders if the shop acts as a proper exchange. As he attempts to sell the flowers right away, the system issues a lower offer. Shocked that the price dropped from 300 shillings a second ago, he accuses the shop of trying to lowball him. Deciding to fight back, he prepares to play hardball with the system. He deduces that he can only sell items with at least 1 star and a listed description price, meaning he needs to actively haggle. Lion stands in the forest in deep thought. He points out the flower's value as an alchemy ingredient and tea, convincing the system to adjust its valuation. A new price update appears before him in the clearing. Annoyed that the system only raised the price slightly while still charging a fee, he calls it stingy. He accepts that policy is policy, but the system suddenly responds to his feedback. The shop announces that it always listens to customer feedback, waiving the fee and raising the price to 300 shillings. The proposal makes him realize He can exploit this flexibility to get more profit. He figures he needs to study up so he doesn't get ripped off, and happily agrees to sell. The system processes the sale instantly, dropping a heavy bag of 300 shillings right into his hands. Curious if he can sell crafted items, he learns that only brand new, untampered goods make the cut. Reflecting on a successful day of gathering, Lion stretches his arms out in the forest. With all the ingredients safely in hand, he decides it is finally time to eat. After checking a system prompt, he excitedly realizes the mystery item is actually whole peppercorns. He tosses the pepper seeds and prepared crayfish parts into boiling water to whip up a rich broth. He starts by mixing flour and water into a firm dough, slams it on the board to make it chewy, and sets it aside to prep some greenhorn mushrooms. He tosses the crayfish body right into the pot, declaring it makes a mouth-watering seafood soup. As the broth simmers, he tears the aged dough into pieces, tosses in some crown daisy, and brings it all to a delicious finish. Taking his first sip, Lion beams as the hot broth washes away every bit of grease and the sujebi hits the spot. He notes how the mix of thick and thin dough creates a wild variety of textures, making the whole dish dangerously good before moving on to the crayfish. Lion is blown away by how the crayfish meat is chewy like lobster yet sweet like blue crab, realizing it was the secret weapon all along. He stands there in total shock, staring off in disbelief at the incredible flavor explosion. He relishes his meal, pairing spicy crayfish and sujebi with broth and crown daisy for the ultimate flavor balance. After finishing every last bite, he collapses back on his chair, completely stuffed from the incredible feast. An empty cooking pot rests quietly on the outdoor table. He groans as a massive food coma hits him hard right there in the sunny clearing. Suddenly snapping out of it, Lion panics and reminds himself to gather firewood before night falls. He strolls through the woodland area, scanning the surrounding trees until he spots some good wood. Planning to craft basic tools to sell for a profit, Lion happily taps his shop interface to spend his saved shillings. He purchases a complete beginner woodworking set filled with all the essential gear he needs. A system guide pops up instructing him to carve a V-shaped cut precisely where the tree should fall. Glowing marks appear on the thick trunk of the tree. He brings down a tree and marvels at how a small one drops a ton of materials. As he plans to clean up the rest with a saw, he suddenly spots something else. He realizes there is a building tucked away over there. Shocked to find cabin in a place like this, he peeks through a normal-looking window. He inspects the interior, noting the only furniture is a bed. The system grants him ownership of the cabin as the master of the library labyrinth. Thrilled by the news, he figures a cabin beats sleeping outside for a whole month. Then he pauses, wondering if he can move the cabin to his base camp. When the system confirms it is possible, he celebrates how much easier his survival will be. Before proceeding immediately, he stops himself to clear a spot for the cabin at his base first. He tells himself to place it here, noting that it will take some time and generate a loud noise. Then he wonders how it is going to move, figuring it might get summoned with magic since they are inside a labyrinth. He suddenly lets out a confused huh as something shifts around him. Lion gasps in pure shock and cries out as a massive cabin abruptly materializes around him, completing the installation. Recovering from a sudden blast of wind, Lion wonders what in the world just happened. He realizes his entire house was moved while flying through the air, admitting it really startled him. Looking around with a smile, he decides that despite the chaos, it is not so bad after all. After spending a week in the labyrinth, Lion is thrilled to finally have his own very nice home. With unpacking already done in broad daylight, he figures he has plenty of time left. Lion decides to put the remaining hours to use by crafting some daily necessities right away. As he tests out a freshly planed piece of wood, the system chimes in with brutal item descriptions, prompting Lion to beg it to stop calling his makeshift gear ugly. Accepting that perfection isn't expected on a first try, he flashes a confident, determined grin. Determined to improve, Lion tells himself to keep going and gets right back to work. After leveling up his woodworking to apprentice rank, Lion inspects his newly crafted tray and cups, figuring they are good enough to use for his stay before moving on to the next task. Realizing the shop buys anything rated 1 star or higher as long as it looks good, Lion starts carving a custom piece. He finishes a neat wooden flower pot and grins as he decides to register it for sale. Holding out his new creation, he tells the system he wants to sell it. The system offers a measly 800 shillings, shocking Lion into arguing that it's worth way more. Instead of raising it, the system lowers the price even further because of its low rank, leaving Lion outraged. Lion defends his item, pointing out that it's made of rare labyrinth wood that only grows inside the dungeon. He hypes up the wood's waterproofing and durability, and the system recalculates and bumps the price up to 1,500 shillings. Happy with the new valuation, Lion happily agrees to sell it at that price. The sale goes through instantly, netting him the 1,500 shillings right away. When he asks if he can flood the market with the same item, the system warns him that prices will drop if supply beats demand. Figuring that selling a variety of items while crafting what he needs will easily boost his experience, Lion keeps busy. 3 weeks later, the hard work continues deep in the forest. He reels in a rare labyrinth snow-white trout, noting its valuable runestone eyes. Catching 10 rare fish completes an achievement and rewards him with 3,000 shillings. His fishing proficiency hits apprentice level 3, though his rod is left on the verge of breaking. With preparations complete, he notes the final prerequisite to reach skilled rank. He realizes that excluding the target talent, at least 5 other talents must exceed apprentice level 3. Grinding life skills proves a real pain, but raising his fishing level finally unlocks the requirement. He discovers a strange fisheye drop and is shocked to find it's worth 10,000 shillings. Stare longingly at a pile of shimmering golden coins, Lion weighs his options. He desperately wants to cash out, but since the unlock requirement matches the fish essence, he figures he'll probably need it later. Deciding against the sale, he figures he'll see the recipe soon enough anyway while cooking. A system alert pops up confirming he's obtained the labyrinth trout essence and pushed his potion crafting talent past its limit. That breakthrough evolves his skill into alchemy specialization, boosts him to skilled level 1, and unlocks a massive wave of new recipes. New knowledge floods directly into his head, including strange non-potion recipes like a curse-reflecting doll, making this level up feel amazing. The recipe transmission finally stops. Scratching his head, Lion realizes that while apprentice ranks only covered potions, reaching skilled grants him total mastery over alchemy. Deciding to test out the fish essence, Lion checks the system interface for any recipes that might use it. Surprised, he discovers an ununlocked recipe requiring 5 fish essences and 2 fish eyes. Realizing he only has a single fish eye in his inventory, he knows he has only one shot at the craft. Though nervous about lacking materials, he feels his adrenaline pumping and declares that alchemy is the most fun. As he preps the ingredients, he reflects on how fishing and hard labor are great, but something else beats them. He throws caution to the wind, shouting that only amateurs worry about failure, and the lower success rate just makes it more thrilling. Gasps escape Lion as the pot rattles violently, realizing something's going terribly wrong. Panicking, he throws his weight onto the lid, knowing he's got only one shot to keep it from blowing. He smiles in relief when it works, revealing an alchemist's fish pill that permanently boosts mana, but smells terrible. Though disappointed by the low grade, Lion is glad it didn't fail until he reads the strange usage description. Realizing what he just made, Lion watches in shock as a massive fish bites onto the bizarre pill. Holding the strange pill in his hand, the young master realizes this is why he struggled to catch rare fish earlier. He wonders if selling a rare fish caught with this pill could fetch a fortune of 20,000 shillings. Imagining a chain reaction of catching rarer fish using specialized pills, he pauses to reconsider his options. Deciding against selling it for quick cash, he figures eating it right away for extra mana would just be a waste. Since his original goal isn't money or mana, he decides to go all out for one final fishing session before leaving. With that thought in mind, he ties the bait to his line, seeking something even more important than leveling up. Casting his rod into the shimmering waters, he finally takes a moment to enjoy some pure relaxation. Far away from the lake, a maid approaches the family head to remind him that only 2 days remain until the young master's deadline. The family head acknowledges the warning with a grim expression, deeply stressed about the ticking clock. He admits he can barely stand to watch, wondering aloud if things are at least slightly better than before thanks to Lixil. Recalling when a certain someone got a marriage proposal, Family Head remembers how he flew into a rage and swore to kill the crown prince right then and there, though he eventually calmed down. Elvia notes that he's handling things quite maturely now, suggesting he focus instead on preparing for young master's upcoming return. When Family Head asks how, Elvia proposes booking an entire luxury hotel since young master had a rough time in the labyrinth. As Elvia agrees to set things up right away, she casually brings up the matter of the labyrinth. She specifically asks Family Head about the labyrinth collapsing. Family Head tells her not to worry about it at all. Elvia admits that even though her path to freedom vanished with the labyrinth, she has been having way too much fun lately to care. Sweating slightly, Family Head clarifies that that wasn't what he meant to say. He quickly adds that there is no need to get ahead of themselves. He reflects that his grandson always causes trouble and expects he has stirred up the labyrinth over the past month. Meanwhile, young master sits by the water fishing with a basic rod and bait, figuring pros would call him an amateur. He notes that the true art of fishing involves losing baits before catching that one special fish, though waiting for hours tests his patience. He wonders if getting 0 bites for hours is a bit too much for a simple fishing trip. Observing the completely dead surface of the water, he suspects something massive might be lurking underneath. Just as he compares the lake to a dead zone hiding a giant predator, his float suddenly twitches and he gasps. The rod dips violently as young master feels an immense power pulling on the line, realizing he has hooked a rare 3-star grade catch. He strains against the overwhelming force, fighting back from beneath the water. Bracing his weight against the rod, young master grunts under the intense strain of reeling in the massive creature. Struggling against a massive creature, young master panics as the line threatens to snap under the immense weight. Realizing he only has a single chance, young master prepares to make his final move. Pulling with all his might, young master destroys his fishing rod completely as the fish finally leaps into the air. The system announces a rare labyrinth 5-colored sturgeon catch, and young master is completely stunned by its massive size. Young master excitedly wants to take a picture of his huge catch before quickly regaining his composure. Telling himself to snap out of it, young master hurries to clean the fish before wasting any more time. Wielding his exceptionally sharp knife with glee, young master celebrates a massive harvest from the sturgeon. Young master cheers triumphantly after finally securing a 3-star drop from his hard work. Determined to make the most of his materials, young master decides to dive straight into alchemy. He places the precious fish eye into the pot, closing the lid to start the brewing process. Lion stares at the pot as it shakes violently, wondering if the higher grade makes the reaction much stronger than his bait. He presses his hands down to steady the boiling pot, unlocking heat resistance, while grinning that he cannot fail after working so hard. The night sky fills with glowing clouds and shining stars under the moonlight. Exhausted after pulling an all-nighter, Lion groans that his arms hurt. He rests his head on the large cauldron, still in disbelief that he stayed awake all night. Noting that the pot has completely settled down, Lion wonders if he should finally open it up. He lifts the heavy lid, peering inside to see what is waiting for him. A notification pops up revealing the alchemist's 5-color fish pill, granting a massive permanent mana boost, pushing his alchemy proficiency to skilled level 2, and prompting Lion to cheer that he finally did it. Reading the item description about the permanent mana increase, Lion repeats the detail in sheer disbelief. Convinced he would be crazy to pass it up, he decides to eat it immediately. Lion takes a huge bite out of the glowing orb right in front of him. As incredible energy surges around him, the young master tells himself to focus and store all of it inside his mana circle. System notifications suddenly flash in front of him, announcing that his mana circle is full and he has officially mastered the first mana circle. More windows pop up to tell him he's acquired 3 basic spells, can't form another circle right now, and that any unrefined mana is getting automatically expelled. Gritting his teeth in disbelief, the blonde mage stares in absolute shock as he realizes he actually pulled it off. With the labyrinth restoration complete, system prompts confirm Lion Astery as the current master and announce that he can finally head back home. He packs his things, relieved that his hard-earned cabin will stay put, and celebrates finishing his month-long survival challenge in the labyrinth. Just as he's about to leave, a system alert pops up about an unregistered item found during the restoration, prompting him to check if it's another hero's treasure. The young master unfurls a document, wondering what's written on it as he reads through the opening lines. He realizes it is a contract, his expression turning serious as he inspects the pages in silence. A close-up reveals the dense magical text written across the parchment. Reading further, he is stunned by the harsh terms restricting the witch's magic and forcing her to age alongside humans, loudly questioning if this massive labor violation makes House Asteria black company. He figures out that Sylvia the witch is the owner of this contract, wondering why on earth she would ever sign something so unfair before reacting in sudden shock. His wide eyes dart across the glowing signature at the bottom of the agreement. Putting the pieces together, he realizes she agreed to these punishing terms just so she could live openly as a human within House Asteri. Reading through the contract terms, young master reasons that treating a witch this harshly is simply too much, so he packs his things, deciding to head back and figure it all out later. Stepping through the portal, young master admits that while the labyrinth wasn't awful, he still figures, There's just no place like home. Back inside the grand estate, everyone waits in complete silence. Astri checks in with Rixon to see if the preparations are fully sorted. The knight confirms they're ready to move the elite squad out if young master fails to return by the deadline. Astri turns to Hoffman next, instructing him to get ready to transport young master just in case. Hoffman agrees to the orders while Elvia watches closely with a serious look. Hoffman stands quietly in the hall. Elvia notes that Hoffman has served as personal physician under Asteri's orders for a long time, wielding the Empire's best healing magic as Tower Master. Hoffman channels his glowing green healing magic right in front of them. The narrator explains that Rixon is close to becoming a sword master so the estate can handle any disaster. She stands quietly with a tense expression. Someone hopes they won't need to use their strength before the main doors suddenly swing open and everyone scrambles to their positions. A blinding flash fills the room as someone steps out, leaving everyone shielding their eyes in shock. Rixon stares intently at the bright doorway. Astri emerges from the light with a casual smile, asking why everyone is gathered there. Before Asteri can finish speaking, Asteri pulls him into a tight embrace. Asteri gasps in surprise as he realizes it is his grandfather holding him. Asteri nervously wonders if he took longer than expected. Elvia reassures him that he returned right on time, leaving him touched. He tries to play it cool after getting caught worrying, claiming he was just checking the boy's condition. Flustered, he immediately orders Hoffman to examine the boy right away. Someone points out the obvious flaw in his sudden panic after he just claimed he checked him himself. Lixil Asteri steps in to ask how young master is doing, but young master insists he is in perfect health. Young master smiles brightly, comparing his supposed good shape to how Asteri checked on him. Lixil Asteri notes that for someone claiming to be fine, his face looks completely gaunt. Lixil Asteri fusses over his weight loss in the labyrinth, but young master casually admits he actually gained 5 kilos. Changing the subject, young master cheerfully invites everyone to check out the labyrinth with him. Asteri and Lixil Asteri immediately reject the idea in absolute panic, leaving young master confused. Lixil Asteri urges Asteri that they need to inspect young master's mental condition much more thoroughly. Asteri orders Hoffman to examine young master at once, and the physician steps forward as young master groans. Young master recalls how Hoffman treated him like a dentist, since unsnagging tangled mana circuits was agonizingly painful. Remembering why he always ran away from him, young master watches as Hoffman calmly reaches out his hand. He reasons he should just let Hoffman check him out to prove he is completely fine, reacting with surprise when it actually happens. Meanwhile, Hoffman wonders what has gotten into him since he is being unusually compliant instead of refusing. As the physician channels his magic, he thinks about rumors that the young master changed around his coming-of-age ceremony and wonders if he suddenly matured. Hoffman pauses in confusion, prompting Asteri to panic and demand to know if his condition is really that bad. Determined to be thorough, Hoffman insists on checking again while examining his pulse. Hoffman's eyes widen in utter shock as the magical inspection reveals an unexpected result. Stunned, Hoffman stammers in disbelief, asking how such a thing could possibly be. As young master worries things are going too far, Hoffman joyfully blurts out that he is simply too healthy, wishing he could treat all his patients like this. Young master asks if he is just trying to trick him again, but Hoffman reassures him that his repaired mana circuits are stable and he is genuinely fine. Laughing off the fuss, young master teases Hoffman that he worries just like grandfather before telling everyone he is fine. Satisfied that he is healthy, Asteri accepts it and praises Hoffman and Rixon for their hard work. Asteri tells both men they may take their leave, and they bow respectfully before departing. Turning his attention elsewhere, young master calls out to Ryan. Hoffman suggests that young master drop by the magic tower for a proper checkup, and he agrees to visit soon. Yet the physician stands there, wondering if the young man has genuinely matured at all. The young man then suggests they move elsewhere to talk in private. Asteri agrees, noting there is plenty he needs to hear. Asteri tells Rikshel to cast soundproofing magic, and the young man pulls out a mysterious item he found in the labyrinth. Inspecting the artifact, they realize it is the genuine family relic that matches the one around young master's neck. They are completely taken aback by the revelation. Asteri mutters that the guy is tied to the hero and tells him to keep the treasure, recalling he was told someone who truly needed it would show up. Reflecting on a past memory of Petrick handling something that is no longer needed, young master realizes what he glimpsed in story mode really happened and calls out to Rikshel. Asteri warns about keeping information from leaking, and Rikshel immediately offers to whip up an alibi for the past month. Before leaving, Rickshell hesitates and calls out to his grandfather. Astery drops a scroll on the table, casually telling his grandfather that he brought something else besides the treasure. He explains that he happened to read the contents of the contract between the witch and the former family head. Suspecting the witch is old lady Sylvia, Astery figures out the person in question is Elvia, demanding to know how long he has known about it. Astery replies with a cheerful smile that he knew from the start, figuring there was no real need to mention it. He recalls teasing Astery earlier about finding a new love when he asked for a high-grade potion, while Astery furiously denies it. Astery brushes it off and asks straight to the point why he is showing him the contract in the first place. Astery catches himself mid-sentence, as he almost slips up and calls him grandfather instead of family head. After correcting his title, Astery looks right at him with a grin and announces that he wants to change the terms of the contract. Sitting down with a scroll, Astery tells the family head he wants to change its terms, and someone asks why. He figures since he owns the labyrinth now, the contract's his too, reasoning directly with the head instead of his grandfather. The narrative notes that Sylvia is seen as a terrifying half-breed monster and a massive threat to the Empire, which explains why the family head couldn't help her personally. Back in the present, Astery demands to take on both the rights and responsibilities of the contract, leaving the older man thoughtful. The family head realizes this is a clever public justification to bypass the fact that he couldn't interfere with his sister directly. The grandfather refuses to yield easily, arguing the contract belongs to Sylvia and the former head, but Astery fires back by pointing out he legally won it during his coming-of-age ceremony. Smiling with confidence, he reminds him of the Astery house custom that says whoever completes the ceremony keeps whatever they get from it. The elderly man sits in quiet thought, letting out a faint smirk. Granting his approval, he tells Lion that since the territory is his now, he can handle it however he wishes. Family head warns him to be ready to take full responsibility for any unexpected situations. Lion smiles brightly and tells him of course he is prepared. Family head ponders the situation in silence. Family head muses that Lion would normally talk to Sylvia to change the contract, leaving the young man confused. When Lion calls him out for hiding something, family head brushes it off, telling him to speak with Sylvia directly first. Sensing that family head is hiding something, Lion agrees to the advice. Lion jokingly promises to stay locked in his room for a while, and family head tells him to do as he pleases. Family head stares deep into his teacup, lost in thought. Reflecting on the hero's potion and treasure-choosing Lion, alongside finding Sylvia's contract in the labyrinth, family head realizes it is no coincidence and resolves to act. As he looks down, Astery notes that there will be plenty of gnats buzzing around. Back in his room, Lion sprawls out on the bed, thrilled to be back to his comfortable routine of doing nothing. He finds it hilarious that no one even came looking for him after all this time. He wonders if Rickshell took care of everything so fast, or if someone else is handling it. Laughing out loud, he decides it doesn't matter as long as he has nothing to worry about. Then he suddenly stops and spots a scroll on the table, realizing it is the real problem. Sitting up abruptly, Lion calls out for Elvia. He looks around the quiet room, realizing no one answers his call. He complains that she doesn't even show up when called, right as Elvia congratulates him on his safe return. He tries to bring up something important, but she cuts him off by mentioning she booked a hotel room for him. Lion tries to redirect the conversation back to the contract, but Elvia immediately insists he gets a checkup from Hoffman. She keeps deflecting, offering to have the kitchen prepare something delicious because he hasn't eaten well. Announcing he has urgent matters to handle, Lion abruptly walks away. He realizes with a sigh that things are slipping away. Reflecting on the past days, he notes they haven't crossed paths, assuming Elvia knows he wants to improve the contract. Holding the scroll, he wonders why she is actively avoiding him. He stands deep in thought, pondering his next move. Brushing off his doubts, he decides to head straight for the magic tower. He plans to force Elvia into the open, calling the massive tower crazy. Awestruck by the endless floors and extreme security, he admits it truly feels like a mage dream job. Stepping inside, Lion gets dragged into chaotic bureaucratic panic, realizing mages are just like office workers. Determined to finish his business, he aims to secure Rickshell as the next head and prove his full health. Armed with bribes and ready to act, he spots his first target right away. A startled student accidentally drops paperwork when approached by the visitor asking for Hoffman. The young master learns that Lord Hoffman is on the top floor and thanks the helpful student. He hands him a homemade fatigue recovery drink, which the student gratefully accepts. He suddenly realizes that any visitor to the magic tower would already know Hoffman's location. He figures the guy must be a rookie. Then he notices the man has purple eyes and remembers that's the signature mark of the Asteri house. He puts the pieces together, realizing Lord Hoffman serves as Lion Asteri's personal physician. As the blonde man tells him to enjoy the drink, the student nervously asks if he is Lord Lion Asteri himself. The revelation sends shockwaves through the hall as everyone overhears that someone from the Asteri house has arrived. Lion realizes this attention is going to be a problem. Onlookers rush over to greet him, marveling at how much he has grown. Hoffman shouts that he is coming right down, prompting Lion to frantically tell him he doesn't need to. The elderly mage panics and tries to break free while attendants desperately hold him back. Deciding he doesn't care anymore since he already has everyone's attention, he opens a massive box filled with bottled potions. Lion cheerfully offers everyone some refreshing drinks while they work, flashing a bright smile. A loading screen pops up with a playful banner announcing they are handing out drinks. Lion lets out a heavy sigh as he relaxes back into the plush sofa. Suddenly, a flustered attendant frantically apologizes, leaving Lion caught completely off guard. The panicked servant bows low and begs forgiveness for his terrible mistake, but Lion brushes it off, figuring his striking eye color would give him away sooner or later anyway. Eager to make amends, the servant insists on doing something to fix it, prompting Lion to pause and consider a request. Explaining that it has been a long time, the young man asks if someone could show him around the Grand Magic Tower. Lion pops open his case, figuring he's handed out enough potions to call it a day. As he finishes up, a servant tells him that only the top floor where Hoffman is remains to be visited. The companion offers to watch over the heavy travel bag, leaving Lion free to head up. Lion gasps in pure shock upon realizing the entire cabin is built entirely out of glass. Staring down through the floorboards, he admits the dizzying height is getting to him. Glancing down at the drop, Lion wonders how anyone with a fear of heights survives this, while his companion admits the levitation and acceleration magic still gives him the chills despite riding it all the time. On the way up, the companion nervously confesses he has only met Lord Hoffman a few times. Lion wonders just how ruthless Hoffman must be to terrify people this badly, recalling how strict he was back when Lion was just a kid. Figuring the subordinate mages must have it rough, Lion pauses as the lift finally chimes their arrival. Leading the way forward, the guide politely gestures for Lion to follow him down the hall. They stop right in front of an ornate double door marking Hoffman's private chambers. As a servant bows and takes his leave, Lion tells him to have a nice time. He heads inside as an announcement echoes that Lord Lion has arrived. A voice tells him to come in as the door opens. Lion reacts in shock before being welcomed inside. He inspects the unrankable custom medical equipment, realizing it easily beats any hospital checkup center. Hoffman notices his hesitation and asks what is wrong. Lion brushes it off internally, assuring him it is nothing. Hoffman asks how he has been feeling, and Lion reports no unusual symptoms since coming to see him. Hoffman fondly notes how much he has grown up, then suggests starting the checkup first. Lion agrees without hesitation. Hoffman finishes the scan and tells him the results will take an hour, prompting Lion to ask if he can look around. He gets permission to look around, muttering that the warning sounds like it is meant for a toddler. Walking through the grand halls, he notes that this section seems dedicated to healing magic. He pauses at the threshold of a massive, mysterious chamber filled with towering bookshelves. Looking around at the strange diagrams glowing on the walls, he wonders what kind of place this really is. Hoffman appears behind him, explaining that they are currently working on restoring obsolete potions here. Inviting Lion to examine the project documents left on the table, Hoffman watches as the young man eagerly accepts. Flipping through the papers, Lion blinks in surprise upon seeing that the plans involve the hero. He inspects the nearby bottles, realizing with a start that something is deeply wrong with them. Lion realizes the bottles are merely basics apprentice-level potions that have somehow been crafted as counterfeits. He worries whether they plan to distribute fake potions tied to the hero, deciding it is safer to pretend he knows nothing. Complaining that an empty stomach is slowing down his brain, Lion panics before someone suddenly congratulates him. Hoffman examines him and finds him in perfect health, wondering in disbelief how the young man improved so rapidly. Quickly changing the subject, Hoffman insists they stop the exam to eat first, praising the Magic Tower's food. Hoffman laughs it off, claiming working everyone hard is the secret, while Lion notes that starving workers makes an evil company. A servant serves a plate of small tarts, and Hoffman tells Lin to dig in, prompting an enthusiastic thank you. Lion digs into the delicious meal, and Hoffman agrees with a smile. Lion changes the topic, asking if the potion in the other room is finally ready to sell. Hoffman casually confirms the hero's potion is nearly finished, leaving Lion staring in total shock. Chuckling at the reaction, Hoffman explains that the top alchemy experts and himself built it. So it sounds unbelievable. Hoffman boasts that a new potion will soon let magic surpass divine power, but Lion realizes inside that selling it as is would turn the magic tower into a total scam, forcing a fake smile. When Lion asks about human trials, Hoffman claims everyone saw amazing results, though an internal note reveals the grim truth. It is a counterfeit that only works for the very first dose before dropping in effectiveness by 99%. Hoffman casually mentions that mass production starts in about a week, leaving Lion stunned by how fast things are moving. Panicking over the disaster, Lion imagines a future where Richel gets publicly branded as the master of a scam tower surrounded by angry mobs. As they discuss the rapid commercial release over dinner, Lion worries that stepping in directly would expose his hero powers while his grandfather is away. Lion frets that fixing this mess would shake Richel's standing too much, insisting to himself that he has no interest in taking his position. He marvels at the hero's potion while deciding he can't ignore it, asking to return later to study it once the Astery house gets first access. Hoffman expresses his gratitude to him. Brushing off the thanks, Hoffman pushes the conversation further. Hoffman warmly invites Lion to visit whenever he wants and gently pitches a career in the magic tower. But Lion immediately announces he's leaving. Lion mentally rejects the idea of getting fast-tracked into a cushy tower job, but reluctantly agrees before saying his goodbyes. As Hoffman wishes him a safe trip back, Lion notes that only 1 week remains until the commercial release. Determined not to damage Richel's standing, Lion vows to resolve the entire situation, no matter what it takes.